Morning, 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 morning. Welcome, everyone. Oh, what time in the morning is this to watch F1? This should not be allowed, everyone. This should not be allowed. How's it going? How's it going? I hope you got your coffees ready. Drivers are making their way around the track right now for their reconnaissance laps. Making their way round to the grid. So we got just in time. Oh. But yeah. I had to push the start time back, guys. Apologies. I was going to start this at 3, an hour before we go live normally. But I was like, I need an extra 15 minutes in bed. I needed that extra time. So I'm already on my second coffee as well. So welcome, everyone. Hope you're good. Hope you're good. My pleasure, Ahoff. Working the night shift in the US. Well, hopefully we have a good race to provide you on your night shift. You knew I stayed in bed. Yeah, man. I had all the best intentions, but this is just an obscene time to be up and watching F1. Don't know how you guys down under do it so often. Rum and Coke for you, Jack. Oof. Yeah, not quite the drink of choice or the drink that is needed right now for me personally. I've got that coffee. So, what the hell was this poll? Stroll is obviously winning. Maybe if there was wet conditions, because Aston Martin actually looked good. But yeah. No, it is bone dry, guys. Update on the weather. It is bone dry. The track temperature is a little bit hotter than it was yesterday, of course. Well, I said a little bit hotter. Quite considerably hotter. 17 degrees. Still cold by F1 standards, but yeah, air temperature is a lot warmer as well. We'll have a look at, of course, the weather. We'll just watch these drivers make their way round the track. Doesn't really seem to be that there's going to be anything too kind of untoward, I imagine, with these reconnaissance laps, as it's not wet weather conditions, and that's really going to provide us an interesting race here because, well, will the McLaren still be as strong as it was yesterday in those slippery conditions in dry conditions? I'm not so sure. So someone asked if does Max Verstappen do I think Max Verstappen can win this race? 100% I think he can win this race. He's still my choice to win this race, really. As I said from my predictions from the get-go, he has that power unit, that fresh power unit in the back of his car. And also do not rule out George Russell as well. What tyres are the top two starting on, Dan? We don't know. But I would suspect, and we'll have a look at the tyre allocations, but I would expect probably the medium compound tyre. Medium or soft is probably what most will start on, but I suspect probably the medium. It leaves it open for a difference in varying strategy. I think some down the bottom of the grid will maybe go for the hard. But yeah, we'll see. Why is Yuki after Hamilton now? Well, it seems that Ferrari have not made any setup changes to Lewis Hamilton's car. So they're obviously confident with how the car is set up. Lewis probably as well. So for them to not be starting from the pit lane, whereas Yuki is, there's definitely changes that has been made. Whereas Lewis is starting on the grid, which is interesting. So 52% of the vote going for Max is kind of crazy. Yes, indeedy. So get your votes in, guys, of who you think is going to win this race. 35% say Norris. 52% overwhelmingly for Max Verstappen. George Russell 7%. Piastri 6%. I think, personally, a lot of you are overlooking George Russell. That's just my opinion. I do think Max will still win this, but I think this is more likely to be a race today between Russell and Verstappen than it is Norris and Verstappen or Norris and Russell. Afternoon from a sunny Wellington in New Zealand. Ah, lovely, Mariam. Making the most of this afternoon race. It's the last one of the year for you. I know you don't get many, but yes, enjoy it. F1 at a suitable time. I think Verstappen's going to start on the soft, get the advantage into T1, hold that draggy McLaren. Yeah, I don't even think he's I think he's going to comfortably get past the McLaren, to be honest. Because, yeah, it's dragging. So, what's my local time? 20, just gone 20 past 3 in the morning. 3 a.m. Great time for racing. The caffeine is starting to kick in. I've got some bags under my eyes. My eyes feel very heavy right now, but we'll get into it. We'll wake up. Oh, my mic's on, is it? Hello, hello. Testing, testing. Is that better? That all good? Is that better? There we go. The mic's tired too. Probably. Still 34 minutes until the race starts. Yep. So the race will start on the hour. Regardless of what time zone you're in, the race will start on the hour. Any hope for Ferrari? So I probably not. No, I think they need some. They obviously need some carnage. They need some carnage. Lewis Hamilton in particular. Lewis may get the benefit of, I don't know, a red flag or a safety car or something, but I think Lewis is probably going to stay out as long as possible. That's probably his only strategy for a decent result today. Although Lewis does have a quick car in dry conditions. Like, he did look good. We just know that Ferrari, obviously, it doesn't work in dry conditions at the best of times, but Lewis was in a dry setup. I got it mixed up yesterday. Lewis was the one who was in the dry setup. Charles was on the wet setup yesterday. Although both drivers were complaining, of course, about the car in wet conditions, and Charles even said this is something that Ferrari have struggled with since he even joined the team 7 years ago, whatever it was. So Ferrari, yeah, really bad in relation to creating cars in wet conditions. I mean, arguably they're terrible at making cars in all conditions, aren't they, at the moment? But Lewis, I think, will have decent pace. I think he will. I think he'll get into points comfortably. It's a track where it's possible to overtake, and from what we saw in dry conditions on the FP2 on the yesterday, FP2 and FP3 yesterday, Lewis did look quick. So was half asleep watching quali and then heard Lewis Hamilton out in Q1. Yeah, if anyone has seen it, it was basically Lewis's fault. I think there could have been a little bit more kind of heads up from the communication side, from the pit wall, but I think they did. I think they presented enough information for Lewis to kind of start his lap ultimately. So yeah, Lewis just clearly. I mean, the race engineer did say something. The race engineer, if you look at the time of it, he is like push, push, push. Maybe he could have given him more information, say you're in the drop zone, just push. But you also expect, I mean, at the end of the day, you don't want to completely baby a driver. Like Lewis Hamilton is a seasoned driver. He's experienced. He's been at this track twice before as well. He should have known where, obviously, the start line was. The start of the lap was prior to the lights. But I think he was just in a bit of a weird. I think he just lost concentration yesterday. We saw, didn't we? If anyone's seen it, just prior to that, he went over the curb through turns 15 and took out the bollard, which was potentially still stuck under his car. So I don't know what he was doing. I think he was just completely out of sorts in the run up to the start of that lap anyway. So Adami is infamous for bad communication. Yeah, of course he is. Yeah, but I know I've been very critical of Adami as well, and the relationship, and I still think that's a relationship that really should be changed. But yeah, I don't think he's at fault for that yesterday. That's more driver error than anything. So, is it going to be a fully dry race? Well, we're about to have a look whether it's going to be a fully dry race or not, and have a look at the percentage chance of rain. But at the moment, it is dry, and I don't think we're going to get as much rain as what we did yesterday, if we get any. So. Do I think the drivers were shivering yesterday? Probably not. Maybe after the car stopped and the adrenaline ran out. But no, it's a proper workout driving one of these cars. So the body would have been fully up to temperature, don't worry. I read some post-quali interviews, and a lot of them were saying they could have made P4 if only someone hadn't got in their way. It would be crowded up at the starting grid. Yeah, I mean, of course, there was lots of yellow flags yesterday, wasn't there? There was lots of yellow flags. But Carlos Sainz did say, what was the Carlos Sainz situation? He hasn't been penalised for that rejoin in front of Lance Stroll. So he is okay. He is starting from where he qualified yesterday, which is in P3. So there were no post session penalties yesterday. Mercedes, there was obviously a notification that they had submitted their setup sheets too late after the deadline, but there was an IT error from the FIA's end or something from a couple of teams, I think, a security IT error that meant emails were getting blocked from being received by FIA, whereas they were sent by the teams within the necessary time period. So, yeah, no post-qualifying penalties, it seems. So, how wet do the drivers actually get when in the rain? Not too wet, funnily enough. Not too wet because the aero of the car actually forces the wet weather over the car. So, of course, they get wet, but not too much. Mike is having scratch issues. Is it still? Is the mic still iffy? Let me know, guys, just before I start again. I'm going to take it out and do it again. Hang on. When in doubt, plug it in and out again. So, all good. Maybe Cecil is a bit... I think Cecil might be a little bit behind. Click the live button, Cecil. It will take you to where we are now. Right, so that is it. Nothing to make note of here, really, with the reconnaissance laps. So, as we do here, guys, let's have a look at the strategy options for today in this Vegas Grand Prix. Let me just get set up. Right. My local time right now is just gone 3 a.m. So, yeah. Here we go, guys. Here we go. Strategy options for today. And, well, they think it's going to be the medium to hard compound tyre. There's a couple of two-stop strategies here, which is interesting to see. So maybe we will see the two-stop strategy in play here. The hard compound tyre. So I'm a bit surprised that the hard compound tyre seems to be a viable choice. But they were seeing graining on the tyres when it came to dry running on the Friday, or on the Thursday, sorry, in the US. Friday for most of us when we were watching it. So I think, yeah, everyone is probably, the majority of people are going to probably start on the mediums. I do think we'll see a mixed bag. Touched upon it. I think Lewis may start on the hards, try and go extra long at the back of the grid. Maybe he will start on the softs. Maybe we'll go for an aggressive two-stop strategy. It's difficult to say in Vegas because I think we've had I don't think in Vegas yet, and we'll get onto it, I think we've got a 100% record of a safety car here, I think. So we do, I don't think we've had a full strategy kind of play out for us to see. It's always been interrupted. The compounds you used here are the C3, C4, and C5. So the C6 was decided against, I think, kind of from the graining issues that we do see here. And I think, yeah, I mean, what are we going to see here? I think, of course, many will try to one-stop because we know how difficult it is to overtake here. We saw, of course, Liam Lawson do 50-plus laps on the medium compound tyre in Interlagos and not be overtaken. However, I think here it is possible to be overtaken, even if you try to one-stop. I think someone could be on a slightly fresher tyre. I think it's a lot more difficult to defend here because of how long that back straight is in particular. So, yeah, even if you get maybe a good start, a good exit out of turn 12 onto the strip, it's such a long run down there, such a long run that you will just end up, I think, being comfortably overtaken. So that is it in relation to the strategies. A nice varying option there. Will we see a two-stop? Will we see a one-stop? I think, look, we've seen enough this season that it's tricky enough to overtake. While I think it's possible here at Vegas, we're going to see a good couple of drivers do the one-stop and just hold on to track position. Here are the tyre allocations, guys, and, well, basically, because of the wet running that we saw yesterday with that full wet qualifying session, they have all the tyres available to them, don't they? Look at that. 2 brand new sets of hards available to them. Some have 4 brand new sets of softs, 1 brand new set of mediums. So, yeah, it's basically open. It's a free-for-all for strategy options today. So nothing really to discuss with the tyre allocations and what strategies are going to be utilised. It's really as the session progresses. So moving on, race pace. Now this is kind of only really taken from. I mean, this is average data. This isn't gospel, and I disagree, to be honest with you, that McLaren have the quickest race pace. I disagree with that. I think that's highly unlikely. Of course, Lando Norris is starting on pole position, but yeah, I think the Red Bull looks very good, and the Mercedes as well. Of course, that is not a big difference at all. Less than a tenth difference, less than half a tenth difference between Red Bull and less than 100. No, it is 1/10. Sorry, less than 1/10. Then Red Bull back to McLaren and also Mercedes as well. Probably go soft, medium. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the thing is here is that we have seen many safety cars. We have seen. I think we've seen 100% record, which I'm about to get here. No, 50% record. 50% record of safety cars, and VSC is 50% as well. So I can't remember if we got the VSC back in 2023. We definitely had a safety car last year. But you can see there, guys, 0% chance of rain. They think it's going to be very dry. So green flag conditions. Pit stop lost time here is 20 seconds. Not particularly slow. Not particularly quick. Kind of like your average pit stop lost time here. So it does make a two-stop strategy viable because there's not a lot of time that you lose in the pit lane. Pitting under a safety car in VSC is a 6.5 second advantage there. So that is something to keep an eye on for those all-important gaps today for drivers to pit out into. There wasn't. Was there not a safety car last year? I thought there was a safety car last year. Was there one last year? I swear there was. Maybe I'm misremembering, but anywho. 0 red flags is a surprise. Yeah, it is a surprise, to be fair. Morning, back of the shed. Hope I'm having a strong coffee. Just wanted to ask, with it being a road track, is there any difference between the two types? With the two types of what, Shed? But yes, I do have a strong coffee. Only safety car was when Norris crashed in 2023. Was it? Okay, fair enough. I thought there was more incidents last year. Maybe they didn't. Maybe there was incidents, but didn't require a safety car. So it's raining. If it's raining, there's going to be chaos. Yeah, if it's raining, there will be chaos. But it doesn't look like there's any on the radar. So yes, I think we'll probably see. Will we see a safety car? Who knows? Who knows? It will obviously spice things up a bit, and then. Think he means the tarmac. I mean, yes, there's definitely a difference because, of course, it's more bumpy. It's not purpose-built for, obviously, racing. And that's why we see kind of the grain in here. It's more thermal degradation, if anything, in relation to physical degradation. And then let's have a look at the weather. Of course, this is just the BBC. I did look at AccuWeather as well for the radar. And, well, the BBC does say 17 to 20% coverage, 29% coverage there. Let's refresh it and see. Still the same. So Vegas is a very large area. That could be absolutely anywhere in Vegas that little proportion of rain appears over. But from what I saw on AccuWeather and the weather radar particularly, it looks like that there's not really any proper rain showers that will be making their way over. But never say never. Morning, everyone. Morning, everyone. You figure most teams will be looking at a one-stop if they can manage the graining? Yes. Yes, they will do. As always. And also, as well, remember, the graining is something where it is only temporary. The graining is, of course, where you see that tread of tyre, that line of the rubber gathering over the carcass of the tyre, and it does lose you grip. But you only have a period of time where it's slow, and then you work your way through that graining period, and then the tyre starts to come back to you. Some drivers are better than it at others. Some drivers decide to just get off of that tyre because they just lose too much time in that graining phase, whereas some others just are able to manage their pace, get through it, and then save on that pit stop. So lots of drivers have, every driver has fresh new tyres available, as you can see here, because of the full wet weather conditions that we saw yesterday in qualifying. So no slick tyres were used yesterday. Are there any drivers that I feel like might have a surprise result today? I kind of have a feeling that Gasly is going to place well today. Yeah, Gasly I think will do well here. I think, I think let's go. We need to look at the championship standings as well. So bear with me. Let me move that out of the way. So you can see here driver standings. We'll get on to maybe what my race predictions are in a moment. But championship standings, you can see there, Lando Norris has a 24-point lead over Oscar Piastri. So he's just under that one race win difference. Max Verstappen, if Max Verstappen finishes, if Lando Norris wins the race today and Max finishes outside the top 3, then Max Verstappen will be mathematically out of this championship. He is 49 points behind. George Russell is out of the championship now. Of course, he was never really in it at all. But yeah, Lando Norris on pole position today. An unlikely pole position, really, considering the dry weather pace that they particularly showed, I think. So that's going to be interesting for today. McLaren have the constructors wrapped up, of course, back in Singapore. Mercedes on 398 points, Red Bull on 366, and Ferrari only 4 points behind Red Bull. So second place is still up for grabs, but no one really cares about that, do they? Lando's on the softs. No one knows what they're going to be on yet. No, I suspect most people will be on the mediums. That's what I suspect will happen. So... but it's going to be an interesting start because, of course, Max Verstappen has nothing to lose. He's starting on the inside line down into turn 1. P1 starts on the outside line, which is the grippier side of the track. It is the, obviously, racing line. Max is starting on a dirtier side, but it's the inside line. So we know Max is going to try and get his nose in there. Lando, of course, has more to lose. So if Max can force Lando out of position there, he's definitely going to. It is over for Max's World Drivers' Championships. Personally, it is, yes. Especially with where Lando is. He needs... The reason why that is, of course, never say never, but the reason why that is because it's arguably out of his control. Because he needs DNFs from Lando Norris. That's why. First time watch a long time watcher of Missed Apex and love my appearances. Oh, thanks, Collins. Yeah, I'm overdue, actually. I'm overdue. Last couple of times he's invited. Last couple of times he's tried to get me on, actually, on the Missed Apex podcast, but I've had some other commitments. So, match was never really in a title to begin with, in your opinion. I think there was. Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Yeah, I do guess so. I did say a while back that there just isn't enough races. When obviously he was on that push and he closed down the gap dramatically to Oscar, I just still wasn't confident that he was going to get back in this championship, just purely because of what we've seen all year with the Red Bull, and we were coming up to circuits. We had from Monza onwards, where he went on that run, we had a run of circuits where they really suited the Red Bull. The low downforce setups, the little to no degradation on the tyres of circuits that we went to. And that didn't play into the strengths of the McLaren. And then we arrived at circuits like Mexico and Brazil and so forth, where the McLaren's medium to high speed corners, you've got, of course, more emphasis on the tyre deg situation, which has been McLaren's strength throughout this season over their competitors, particularly Red Bull. And then that's where, of course, you then saw that advantage regained. And I do expect this track again to be a strong track for Max. I think if it was in dry conditions yesterday, I think Max probably would have comfortably been on pole position. And I think today, once the DRS is open, I think he's going to comfortably get past Norris as well. So I think really today's race is between George Russell and Max Verstappen. I think if George Russell can clear Carlos Sainz quickly, then it's going to be interesting. So, do I think there's ever going to be a MotoGP way with a what's that? A MotoGP way with a hard rear and soft front? No, I don't think that will ever happen. But yeah, there we go. That is it for really our pre-show. Not too much to discuss there because of everyone being on the same tyre. Of course, I'll keep you up to date with all the standings and those permutations. So, yeah. What's the weather looking like for the race start? It's dry. It's dry. There was a chance, though, he could have kept winning, but that was too much hope. He always needed assistance, in my personal opinion. I think he just, for the reasons already stated, Max needed some collisions from... he needed some more collisions from the two McLaren boys. 10% chance of rain. It's not zero, guys. It's not zero. Risk of rain for the race is 10%. You can see just pop up on your screen there. So... someone made the spot. Someone made the grid slot for P1 slippery earlier on today. Can they change their setup? The only thing they can change is like front wing angles. There's very, very minimal changes that they can make with the setup. They are locked in. They cannot change anything unless, if they do, then they will start from the pit lane, just like Yuki Tsunoda. But it's worthwhile for those who are starting at the back of the grid because, like, they're starting at the back of the grid. And it's not as much of a penalty for them to then start from the pit lane. I'm surprised Lewis hasn't made any setup changes, but that's probably because he felt the car was in good condition anyway, and in a good place for dry conditions. But the wet weather conditions, of course, faulted that yesterday. So Charles is going to maybe struggle. He's in a wet weather setup, so it means that Ferrari is going to be draggier for him. So he may be eaten and devoured in the mid-pack there, starting from P9. So we'll keep an eye out, of course, on Charles today. But Lando Norris can't win the championship mathematically here this weekend. Oscar Piastri can only kind of make himself be in a stronger position to win it in Qatar. But Oscar Piastri, of course, wouldn't have been on pole position anyway yesterday with Lando Norris's time. But he, I reckon, could have got on the front row yesterday if it wasn't for that yellow flag, or at least put himself starting on the second row and higher up than fifth, where he's starting today. So how will Oscar Piastri fare? It's kind of all or nothing, really, for his Drivers' Championship hopes. But it wouldn't surprise me. With Carlos Sainz there, I mean, am I expecting Lando to fall back for the field? As I said, I still think it's going to be a Verstappen and Russell race today. You really don't understand why Lewis didn't just replace everything and started from the pit lane. I think that's because he feels the car is in a good place already. So we know that it's not necessarily possible to just completely replace your engine for cost cap reasons and that. Seems like Red Bull have found a loophole there in that regard, though, for replacing an engine for Max. But I think he had that setup in a good place. I think he found good balance in that Ferrari from FP2 into FP3. And he was comfortable in it, and it was only in those severe wet weather conditions that we saw yesterday where Charles struggled as well, even with a wet setup, that isn't necessarily there's not really any point in changing anything. So hey Leon, good to see you. Welcome everyone, welcome. Watching this from the UK, 3 AM right now, nearly 4 AM, isn't it? So Yuki is starting from the pit lane. If I look on AccuWeather, it looks like rain is coming. Does it? What's my top 3 prediction after turn 1? I still think Lando's going to lead. I think Lando's starts have been tremendous the last few race weekends in a row. Brazil, particularly in the sprint race as well, it was brilliant. Mexico was brilliant. I think it's going to be the same here again. And he's on the outside line, on the grippier line, on the racing line. So I think Lando will hold on to P1. I think Russell will clear Sainz. And then I think it's going to be Norris, Verstappen, and Russell at the end of like lap 1, or even turn 1. Eden Monique, what is the expectation of tyres? Soft or inter? No inters. It is not raining. It is not raining. Of course, guys, throughout the race today, I'll keep you updated as best as possible on the weather conditions. But if you want to know if it is raining or not, the best way to know is at the top of your screen here. It says rain. No, right now. So that will change to yes if it's raining. Very, very simple. So that will be the best indicator of whether it is actually raining out on track. But of course, I always, if I see it on the TV coverage, if I hear anything in relation to the radio messages from the engineers and so forth of rain is on the way, I'll keep you as up to date as best as I can. It's about to be 12 PM in Malaysia. That's nice. What's that? Midday. Lovely. Why haven't they transferred Liam or Hadjar to Red Bull yet? Yuki has been pretty bad. Pardon me. He's a good driver, though. For that reason, because... not for that reason. The main reason is because Yuki is backed by Honda, and they paid Red Bull an extra $10 million for the pleasure of Yuki being promoted into that Red Bull seat for this season after just a couple of races. On top of the $10 million they were already paying towards his seat in the RB team. But yeah, look, the reason why is because they know it's pretty much a poison chalice. And with respect to Yuki, he isn't a Red Bull driver. He's never been a Red Bull driver. He's always been a Honda-backed driver. And yeah, for that reason, they were focusing, of course, on Liam Lawson's development and trying to build up his confidence back because of what happened at the start of the season. And then, of course, Isaac Hadjar, it's his first year in F1. What's the point in putting him in that second seat, which they know is already a poison chalice? And why ruin the development of Isaac Hadjar? Thank you, Leo. Much appreciated. If Lando DNFs, how are Max's title chances? Still very slim. Because we're heading to 2 race circuits, Qatar and Abu Dhabi, which fall right into the strengths of the McLaren. I'd love to see Yuki go back to VCARB. Yeah, VCARB, sorry. Unfortunately for Yuki, I think this could very well be it for his F1 career. If he doesn't get an opportunity with Honda at Aston Martin, I don't know how he's going to make his way back onto the grid, which is a shame because, yeah, at the start of the season, he was performing very well in those first 2 race weekends for VCARB. He was brilliant, wasn't he? And arguably, it's where would Yuki be now? What would his stock be like now if he'd spent this season in VCARB? He might be very highly sought after, whereas Liam has been able to kind of recover potentially his career. There's still no guarantee he's going to be in that seat for next season. But Yuki's now looks like that he's going to be not even there. So the track is dry. Track is dry, guys. Hey, TJ. All good. My thoughts on Sainz at the moment. Sainz is clearly on. He's clearly got on top of the car. It's about time. And he is putting in some decent performances. Albon's on a pretty poor run of form. And he needs to kind of dig himself out of it in the last couple of races of the year, because otherwise people are just going to completely forget the season that Alex Albon has actually had. Because Alex Albon is in P8. He's been the best of the rest. But Sainz has outscored him quite comfortably over the last 5 races. Albon needs to really dig deep. He has an opportunity. Right, guys, quick lube break for my... quick lube break... Just kick my light over. It's gone dark. That was good. A quick lube break for myself. Highly suggest you do the same. We are 6.5 minutes until the formation lap for the Vegas Grand Prix gets underway. So go to the loo. Get yourself your beverages wherever you are in the world, whether it's a coffee for like myself, where it's ridiculously early in the morning, or if it's a nice beer, whatever your beverage of choice is, and snacks, because this could be a long one. It could be a long one, or I think it's still going to be, regardless, a good race because we can overtake it. Back in a jiffy. Here we go. Here we go. Ooh, tyres are off. Blankets are off. What do we have? What do we have? So, the majority starting on the medium compound tyre. The top 9 all on the medium. Pierre Gasly on the hards. Hulkenberger's on the hards. Colapinto, Albon, Bortoletto, Hamilton. Yeah, I expected Hamilton to be starting on the hards, to be honest with you. I think that was a definite given. And then Yuki Tsunoda on the mediums. Antonelli's the only driver on the softs. Interesting. So we'll keep an eye on Kimi Antonelli's hopes and his progression, because the only driver on the softs, I imagine everyone will be looking at that as well. So I went to your country, New Zealand, for that pit stop. Yeah. Bit of a longer one than normal. One-stop strat for all mediums. Not necessarily a one-stop strategy, but it does leave it open. It definitely leaves it open. And gives you the opportunity of whether you go onto the hard, and it's a two-stop strategy, medium, hard, hard. I guess the unknown here is the graining. That's the real thing here, is that they don't know how severe the graining is going to be. So it may be that, yes, it is the medium to hard, or maybe it's not so. Caffeine donation, thank you, much appreciated. But welcome everyone for tuning into this. Oh, Vegas Grand Prix. Welcome, welcome. Over 2,500 of you in here right now. That is tremendous for this early in the morning. Any rain later? Maybe, maybe. Yuki switched engine, start from the pit lane. Has he switched engine? I didn't hear anything of that kind. I don't think they have done, but... There's a saying, if you are not sure about your strategy, start on the mediums. Exactly. But I'm surprised Max maybe hasn't gone to the softs, but he probably feels confident that he's got a quicker car anyway. So, Brad, thank you for the membership, by the way. Welcome to the pit crew. Yes, guys, hit that like and subscribe button. Of course, if you can get this, we are pushing for 70,000 subs now. We have nearly doubled. Nearly. We are, I think, a couple thousand short from doubling my subscriber count from the start of the year. So that's absolutely tremendous. Thank you to everyone who has discovered the channel this year. Thank you to everyone who continues to tune back in. We are in the home run now. We're in the last stretch of this 2025 season. What a season it has been. Lando Norris, of course, leads the championship, and he leads here today. He will do. But will he lead after the first corner? That is the question. Brilliant pole position for him yesterday. The first time ever he has got 3 poles back-to-back. Mexico, Brazil, and now here in Vegas. Will he be able to convert it? I think this is going to be a tougher test for him than any that he's had in Mexico and Brazil recently, where he was in great form. He's in great form at the moment, of course, and he is looking to secure his first ever World Championship. Can't mathematically do it here, but he can most undoubtedly secure and hold onto with one hand that Drivers' World Championship a lot more securely after today. He can hold on to it much tighter. At the moment, he's got a firm grip, but it's still a little bit loose. But he can have a very strong grip after today if he finishes ahead of Oscar Piastri, of course, with him starting down in 5th place. But here we go, guys. Race start is, the formation lap is about to get underway here. Moments away from the drivers making their way around Vegas, down the strip, of course, around the sphere. And, well, this track is the 3rd time that we have been here. And I must say, while I wasn't enamoured about this track when it was first revealed a few years ago, I have been pleasantly surprised and eaten some very humble pie, because we have had 2 absolute bangers here in the previous 2 years. Will it be 3 for 3? Let's see. Not long to find out. Hey, Taco. Welcome, mates. Jareth, much appreciated. You want Lando to win, but Max is right there. Honestly, I want Carlos to win. Spit in Ferrari's face. It's mad that Ferrari's last race winner, guys, still is Carlos Sainz. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy, isn't it? That Carlos Sainz is the last race winner for Ferrari. So, yeah, there we go. Right, guys, right. Let's have a rundown of your Vegas Grand Prix grid, shall we? It is Lando Norris on pole position after a brilliant qualifying yesterday in wet weather conditions, and he is on pole for the 3rd time in a row, as we just mentioned, off the back of Mexico and Brazil. Can he finish ahead of Oscar Piastri, who is down in 5th place, and as we touched upon, get ever closer to that Drivers' World Championship, that first Drivers' World Championship. Max Verstappen starting in P2, though. He has started from this position before and knows very well what is required to get into P1 after the first corner. Starting on the inside line, will he be able to get a better launch than Lando Norris, whose starts have actually been very good of recent? That's going to be one to keep an eye out on. Carlos Sainz is in P3, another great qualifying for him, just like he did in Baku, taking advantage of those slippery conditions. Can he secure himself another podium? George Russell in P4, our winner last year. Do not rule out the Mercedes of George Russell. Had issues with his steering yesterday. That's why he wasn't necessarily on the pace of Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. So no doubt that has been fixed overnight and he will be strong. Oscar Piastri had his lap time faulted by the yellow flag. Probably not enough to qualify on pole position and out-qualify his teammate, but he would have been starting further up. Liam Lawson, another great qualifying from him in P6, as for Fernando Alonso as well in P7. Isaac Hadjar in P8. Quite fortunate, really, not to get a penalty for that moment with Oscar Piastri not slowing down for yellow flags, but he got away with it. Charles Leclerc in P9, he's on a wet setup. Going to be a tricky one here today for the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. Pierre Gasly doing wonderful things in that Alpine, putting it into Q3 where arguably it should not be. Hulkenberg starting on the hards is in 11th. Lance Stroll in P12. What a day of what could have been for him yesterday by going on to the intermediates too soon in Q2. Should really be up there with his teammate in P7. Ocon in 13th. Behrman is in 14th. Colapinto is in 15th. Still yet to score a single point this season. The only driver yet to do so. Alex Albon in P16. Kimi Antonelli starting on the softs, the sole driver to start on the softs on this grid. Bortoletto is in 18th. Hamilton is 19th, starting on the hard compound tyre. No changes to his setup, so that is why he is starting on the grid and not in the pit lane, as Yuki Tsunoda is starting in the pit lane after breaking part firme conditions. So that is it, guys, for your grid for the Vegas Grand Prix. Moments away here from getting underway here. Oh, it is just gone 4 a.m. here, local time in the UK. For those of you around the world, wherever you are watching, get ready. Get ready, because this is going to be a good one, I do believe. Here we go. Yuki Tsunoda making his way there. He'll be making his way through the pit lane. Remember, the pink dots on screen are the DRS detection zones. That is where drivers need to be within 1 second of the driver ahead to be able to get DRS. That is activated after a single lap. It is currently dry conditions with a small percentage of chance of rain here today. So, will we see changeable conditions? Probably not likely. Drivers have all the strategy options available to them with all brand new tyres of every single kind available to them. So this is wide open for strategy. But we are moments away here. Lewis Hamilton bringing up the rear. The last driver to line up on the grid. It's green light, away we go here at Vegas. Will Lando Norris lead out of the first corner? It's the second shortest run on the grid here down into turn 1. And Lando Norris does lead ahead of Max Verstappen. Oh no, Max has got ahead. There's a yellow flag already. As who has gone round there at the back? Can't quite tell. It seems to be Pierre Gasly of the Alpine has gone round into a spin at turn 1. But Max Verstappen leads ahead of Lando Norris, as does George Russell as well. Max Verstappen in the lead, and what a great opportunity this is for this race. It seems to be with the track is slippery through sector 3. Not entirely sure who has got damage there. Gabriel Bortoletto as Lando Norris just completely locked up. Oh my goodness. Gabriel Bortoletto went round. Lots of drivers locking up and completely running wide there down into turn 1. Bortoletto has damage. Stroll has damage. This could be a safety car here. Whether Stroll has been able to get out of the way, but it is an uncharacteristic race start for Lando Norris as he just completely locked up down into turn 1 and ran wide, and that left the door open completely for Max Verstappen and George Russell, and Lando Norris finds himself in P3. Max Verstappen leads as they make their way down the strip for the first time. P1, George Russell is P2 with Lando Norris P3. Carlos Sainz is P4 with Hadjar up 3 places there. As Lando Norris rejoined the track and things got a little bit messy at the start. Oscar Piastri is down 2 places right now, with Ollie Behrman up 6 places, as is Lewis Hamilton as well, taking full advantage of that carnage at the start. Still yet to see a replay of what happened. I just saw cars going round into a spin. I don't know whose fault it was, whether it was Bortoletto, but very, very cold tyres here at the start of the race, of course. Very cold track conditions right now as Charles Leclerc has just regained the position back from Fernando Alonso, and DRS has been activated for the first first time. It does seem to be that the track has got cleared. Lance Stroll, is his car in a suitable condition there? He's probably in the runoff area there, the escape road. And we have a yellow flag again. Where is that yellow flag? In Sector 2. Not entirely sure where it is. It looks like it's been removed. It's in Turn 1 still. It's a yellow flag. So there must be some debris out on circuit. How can there not be with those, with really 3 F1 cars colliding there? Down into Turn 1, and I actually think Lance Stroll, at first glance, I think Lance Stroll, oh my goodness, the yellow flags as the marshals are running off the track there at the end of Turn 1, so thankfully the drivers did slow down, but Max Verstappen leads from, there's debris definitely out on circuit, but Max Verstappen leads from George Russell, and this is probably the best thing for us today as Oscar Piastri gets ahead of Liam Lawson, not necessarily for the driver standings, but overall, as Liam Lawson is falling down the field here. What has happened to Liam Lawson is he just gets shoved out of position as Liam Lawson is falling through the field. I think Lawson's got damage. Has he maybe picked up a puncture from some debris here as Liam Lawson, who did get off to a decent start here, has unfortunately is falling through the field. What is happening to Liam Lawson in that RB? Oh, dearie, dearie me. I wonder if he's just picked up a puncture. He has indeed. He's got a puncture. Liam Lawson has picked up debris and he has got a puncture on his RB. What a shame this is, and we have a VSC deployed, no doubt, to ensure that we can have that debris cleared, because that is not what anyone wants to see. Oh dear, oh dearie me, this should hopefully give us an opportunity to see that race start. Max Verstappen leads 3 seconds at the moment from George Russell. We are under VSC conditions, but yet to see the race restart. I'm wondering, I can see bits of debris just flying off actually as they were making their way down the strip. So our drivers have undoubtedly picked up debris from that first first corner incident between multiple race cars. Lance Stroll is out of this race, and I think it's really through no fault of his own, but we are yet to see a race replay, a replay of that race start. But one thing for sure is that Lando Norris locked up. He actually had a very good start, but we've seen so often is the case here, even though it's a very short run down into Turn 1, there is not a lot of hang on. So watching the race restart now. So who did what here? So Lando actually got a very good start. He got a much better start than Max. He covered him off. He was very aggressive, but then he was too far on the inside line, and oh no, it's actually Liam Lawson. Is that Liam Lawson, or was that Isaac Hadjar? Liam Lawson, I think it was, just went straight into the side of... Yeah, no, sorry. Liam Lawson went straight into the side of Oscar Piastri, guys, by the way. Very aggressive from Liam Lawson. They made contact with him, and I actually think that's why Liam Lawson has been falling down the field right now, is because he has caused the damage to his own car. But yeah, Lando was very aggressive on Max down the inside, and he actually got on the dirty side of the track, and because of that, he outbraked himself, and Max went, thank you very much, I'll take that position, and that left Lando susceptible to the overtake from George Russell. But watching the race restart now of Gabriel Bortoletto's onboard as the VSC is still out there, and who did what here? Who was at fault? Oh, Gabby Bortoletto, what are you doing? Gabriel Bortoletto just literally ploughed into the side of Lance Stroll from miles back. Lance Stroll was turning in. Lance Stroll was turning in there straight into Turn 1, minding his own business, and Gabriel Bortoletto has come back from 3 different postcodes and gone straight into the side of Lance Stroll and taken him out of this race. Lots of lockups though. A lockup from Alex Albon. Pierre Gasly got spun round because of that contact from Gabriel Bortoletto. And then Lewis Hamilton just said, thank you very much, I'll make my way through. Lance Stroll's rear wing was off as he had a broken rear suspension as well. We have a track clear right now. So Gabriel Bortoletto getting his revenge for Brazil, it seems, as virtual safety car is coming to an end here. Max Verstappen leads from George Russell with Lando Norris in P3. Taking that back from Liam Lawson, by the way. It does seem like that the Russell ahead of him locked up, and that also caused Liam Lawson to lock up, and he went into the side of Oscar Piastri. So I don't think really anything will be too much investigated there. But what that has done for Liam Lawson is that did give him a front wing damage, which caused him to have a front right puncture, it looked like, and sparks flying off of the car. So a very, while it's a very short run down into Turn 1, the second shortest run the second shortest run throughout on this calendar season. The first is Baku, I believe it is. Or is this the shortest run? I think it might be the shortest run. But very, very close. It's in the top 2 for sure. It provides us a lot of carnage, of course, with these cold tyres and drivers, no doubt, struggling to get temperature in them down into that first corner. So Vegas has already provided us with some intrigue here. We've had some early pit stops as well. Kimi Antonelli is already off those softs onto the hard compound tyre, as is Yuki Tsunoda as well. Pierre Gasly had to pit due to damage, and that turn 1 incident is being investigated by for Bortoleto on Colapinto and Stroll. And to be honest, that's the most slam dunk penalty I've ever seen in my life from what we saw from Bortoleto there. But the VSC has ended, and we are back racing green flag conditions. Max Verstappen leads from George Russell 1.2 seconds, with Norris a further 1.5 seconds back. Carlos Sainz finds himself in P4 with Isaac Hadjar up 3 places at the start. Big beneficiary there, but from position, good positioning of his car, he is up in P5. Oscar Piastri finds himself down a position in P6. Right now, Oscar Piastri would be gaining 8 points compared to Lando Norris on 15 points. So that's a 7-point difference, and that would take him over the 25 points. Lando Norris over 30 points difference. 31 would be the gap after this race if it finishes as it stands. Lewis Hamilton down there in P12. He's up 7 places as well. Ollie Behrman is up 7 places. Right now in P7. So some big gainers earlier on, but we have a race here for the first time all season. For a long time, we have Verstappen in a battle with George Russell. How will George Russell, who won here last year, of course, who has had 2 race wins this year already, in a quick Mercedes, it seems, here this weekend, how is he going to fare in fighting Max Verstappen in that Red Bull? Just because he overtakes him doesn't mean that he won't be susceptible to an overtake back, as we have seen many good wheel-to-wheel battles here before at Vegas. And it does seem like he's just outside of the DRS right now, but when he gets down halfway through the straight there, he needs to be within 1 second as they get down into turn 13. Technically not a corner, because it is just full throttle here as they make their way down the strip. And you can see that interval time will be closing when they make their way down, and you can see it's not quite closing just yet, but he's not making the big gains that I thought he would be, George Russell, as they make their way down the strip. But he will have DRS next time around if he can stay within that 1 second out of turn 1. So George Russell now within the DRS of the Red Bull of Max Verstappen. Lando Norris losing a bit of time. He's 2 seconds back now. We suspected that the McLaren would not be as strong in dry conditions compared to in those wet conditions, as George Russell is considerably gaining there. You can see nearly half a second back, a 36.9 for him compared to Verstappen's 37.4. Charles Leclerc did get back past Ollie Behrman there. Ollie Behrman is now down into 8th place, but he's up 6 places already. Lewis Hamilton is closing down Esteban Ocon. He is in P12. Further down, we have Gasly 7 places down because of that collision. George Russell not able to close up the gap there down into turn 5. That's not really where we're going to see too many overtakes today from the top boys. You do presume it will be down into turn 14. Lawson is down 12 places overall. Gabriel Bortoleto is a second confirmation there of a retirement, and it could be that he gets a penalty added on to the next race in Qatar for that turn 1 collision, which caused Lance Stroll to retire from this race as well, and to spin Pierre Gasly, both of them minding their own business at the race start here. So George Russell is within DRS this time around, and he will stay within it as they make their way down into turn 12, that tricky turn 12 where we have seen so many lockups today. Lando Norris losing time to these front 2 of Verstappen and Russell. They seem to be definitely the quickest drivers out there. Verstappen, there we go. DRS will be open for George Russell. You can see there the indicator. Will he close in on Max Verstappen? Will he have an opportunity down into turn 14 in the braking zone, into that chicane? Oh, he's very, very close. He's all under the rear wing. We do see moves and opportunities down into turn 1 because it is full throttle from the exit of turn 16 through turn 17, which is arguably not even a corner in dry conditions. It was most doubtedly a corner yesterday with a significant lift through turn 17, but it's not today, as George Russell is just eyeing it up. He's eyeing up, he's waiting for that opportunity on Max Verstappen, which you need to do, and I'm very, very intrigued to see how this battle plays out today. This is what we want to see. Lando Norris in P3. 2.6 seconds behind Russell and Verstappen now. Oscar Piastri is gaining on Isaac Hadjar ahead of him. Hadjar not able to close the gap significantly on Sainz, setting identical lap times last time around. Lewis Hamilton is within the DRS of Esteban Ocon now. He set a purple last sector last time compared to Esteban Ocon had a 38.3 compared to Lewis Hamilton's 37.5. So Alex Albon using Hamilton's slipstream to drag him along as well in that pacey Williams, as the second Williams of Carlos Sainz is in P4. So Russell just losing a bit of time in the slower sections. That dirty air still prevalent here at Vegas, but of course it's not going to be prevalent when they make their way down the strip. Again, we'll keep an eye on them. Lewis Hamilton very close, the closest driver out to anyone ahead of him, with Isaac Hadjar getting very close to Carlos Sainz, it seems. Alex Albon is within the DRS of Lewis Hamilton and Esteban Ocon, but Ocon has just got, and there's no further collision for Oscar Piastri and Liam Lawson for causing a collision at turn 1. I think that's the correct decision. Liam Lawson was reacting to a lock-up from George Russell ahead of him and went into Oscar Piastri, kind of turn 1 shenanigans. We're yet to see a result of Gabriel Bortoleto, though, who has retired from this race as he took out Lance Stroll and Pierre Gasly. Lewis Hamilton, though, DRS open. Can he make a move on Esteban Ocon? Not quite, as Esteban Ocon did catch the DRS of Nico Hulkenberg, which is made him be able to survive just for now. George Russell still within 1 second of the DRS, still within 1 second of Max Verstappen. Let's see if Lewis Hamilton will be able to get an overtake on Ocon down into turn 1. You can see the fastest last sector again for Lewis Hamilton, even quicker than that of Max Verstappen, but Max Verstappen is in clean air, of course, and he's punching a hole ahead for George Russell behind him. And Lewis just not able to get past Ocon right now, but Ocon has still got the DRS. Ollie Behrman seems to be under attack from Fernando Alonso as Alonso just backs off there, and we do have drivers with 8 laps completed. Well, on the 8th lap of this race, out of 50, 43 remaining, we do see drivers now going on the attack, as George Russell has just lost the DRS of Max Verstappen there through that middle sector, and that is where Max is just holding off the Mercedes of George Russell right now, through that middle sector. That clean air, he has the grip, and, well, he is 1.1 seconds ahead of George. Lando Norris just keeps falling off of the back of George Russell. It seems like he's in a bit of no man's land at the moment, Lando Norris. He's much quicker than Carlos Sainz and Hadjar behind him, but not quick enough to stay with those front two. But this is a very long race here today, as George Russell is gaining even in the slipstream without DRS on Verstappen, but not as much. So here we go. Look at that train now of Ollie Behrman, Alonso, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Hamilton, and Albon. And this is not really what Hamilton would have wanted. He was gaining on Esteban Ocon quite significantly, and then he has now found the drivers ahead of him in a DRS train. So not able to get past him at the moment, who are on, of course, the medium compound tyre. Lewis Hamilton on the hards, looking to go very long in this race, as is Alex Albon as well. So different strategies for them. George Russell has now got back within the DRS, as Gabriel Bortoleto will be, his investigation will be happening after the race. So no doubt that's because Bortoleto is already retired from this race. There's not any stress to give a penalty to someone who is already retired. But yeah, I do suspect that will be coming his way. Lewis Hamilton getting very close to the back of Esteban Ocon. Can he get past him into turn 5? Isaac Hadjar still within the DRS of Carlos Sainz there, as Russell is losing the DRS in that second sector, as he did last time around. Let's see how he fares here. That gap is 1.4 seconds nearly. So Max Verstappen, you can see with that clean air, a 27.396 for Max through the first sector. What will his second sector time be? This is definitely going to be almost a 3/4 advantage in this middle sector alone, as they exit turn 12 and will be crossing that second sector line. 1.5 seconds is the gap now, and you can see half a second as Kimi Antonelli has been noted for a false start, moving before the signal. So Kimi Antonelli down in P15 at the moment on the hard compound tyre. He started on the softs, could be getting a penalty coming his way for a false start. But there, George Russell confirmation. Pretty much half a second lost in that middle sector alone, George Russell. So are we already seeing this medium compound tyre maybe struggle and starting to grain in this stage of the race, as we are on lap 9, about to start lap 10. Max Verstappen leads by 1.4 seconds. A purple lap there, fastest lap for Max Verstappen, 4 tenths quicker than George Russell last time around. George Russell 1.3 seconds back. Lando Norris, P3 right now. He is 2.9 seconds, nearly 3 seconds back from George Russell and over 4 seconds back from Max Verstappen after losing the lead at the start of this race. Aggressively covered off Max Verstappen. Something that really I didn't expect to see. An aggressive defence, really, when you look back at it from Lando Norris, who has considerably a lot more to lose than any of his competitors. So credit where it's due there, but wasn't able to hold onto it after getting onto the dirtier side of the race line. Ran out of racing surface and just allowed Verstappen and Russell to make their way past him quite comfortably. Carlos Sainz in P4, where he's down a position from where he started because of Russell making a good start ahead of him. Hadjar is up 3 places. He is in P5 with Oscar Piastri in P6. Starting procedure infringement for Alex Albon, who is currently down in 13th place, up 3 positions in the DRS of Lewis Hamilton ahead of him. So Alex Albon, a starting procedure infringement. Not entirely sure what that is in relation to. So a breach there, maybe speaking to his engineer on the formation lap, which is not deemed not acceptable. Lewis is going to get passed by Albon here. Well, let's have a look, shall we? As we make our way, as George Russell is outside of the DRS of Max Verstappen. Gains in the last sector, of course, where it is all about the top speed, but loses time in the all-important tight, twisty sections in that dirty air. But Lewis Hamilton is in that DRS train of Ollie Behrman right now, and that is unfortunately where Hamilton has found himself stuck in. He is going to probably have to wait for these medium compound tyres to fall off of a cliff, but he's losing all-important time to his teammate up ahead who is in P7, and knows, as we can see, Max Verstappen has already a 16-second lead over Ollie Behrman as we see Kimi Antonelli get past and overtake out on track on Franco Colapinto on the hard compound tyre. So Kimi Antonelli, who is currently being investigated for a false start, moving before the signal, has got past now Franco Colapinto, while his teammate is up in P2 trying to fight for this race lead. But Max Verstappen already has nearly a pit stop window over that of Ollie Behrman in P8. Remember, it's a 20-second average pit stop loss time here. That's what the teams on the pit will be looking at, the strategists, to see where they can pit their drivers out into free air. And that is Ollie Behrman is doing wonderful things for these front runners right now, building a gap and holding everyone up. Ooh, Lando spun T1 up. No, Lando didn't spin. What is the procedure infringement? We don't know right now what he is particularly being investigated for. False starts, so just a reconfirmation there of that false starts moving before the signal that Kimi Antonelli is being investigated for. But Max Verstappen in that clean air right now, he's been able to just hold off George Russell with 36.8 for both of those drivers last time. Will George Russell back off a little bit? Will Lando Norris push on now as well? Has Lando, maybe I was being too harsh on Lando, maybe Lando was just backing off to just look after his tyres, as he knew that there's no point pushing and staying on the back of Max and Russell at this stage of the race. 36.3 for him last time. So he's just, in the last couple of laps, Lando has just made up about 8 temps on George Russell and Max Verstappen. Lando Norris maybe now starting to get a move on this medium compound tyre. Are we maybe seeing a 2-stop strategy here today, or will it still be the 1-stop? As Charles Leclerc reports, I am pushing like an animal, as he finds himself 1 second behind Oscar Piastri, who has now got into the DRS and under the rear wing of Isaac Hadjar, as Isaac Hadjar has lost a bit of ground to Carlos Sainz. 1.2 seconds back, Hadjar is on Carlos Sainz, as Max Verstappen sets a purple fastest sector, first sector. So in that clean air, utilising the clean air that he has available to him, throwing off the dirty air behind to George Russell and even Lando Norris, as Lawrence will now be picking up the dirty air of George Russell. Piastri in the DRS of Hadjar, as Leclerc is also in the DRS of Oscar Piastri now. Behrman still holding up all aboard the Behrman train with Fernando Alonso behind him, Hülkenberg, Ocon, Hamilton and Albon. Hamilton has been in the DRS of Esteban Ocon for around 5 laps now and unable to get past, although Ocon is starting to lose a bit of time to Hülkenberg ahead. As Hadjar says, let's make sure to be aggressive, guys, okay? As Hadjar wants to, he's got the grip between his teeth, currently in P5, and has an opportunity of a very good result today. Of course, maybe looking at the undercut here. Will he be able to do it? It's Charles Leclerc going side by side of Oscar Piastri down into turn 14. This is not very good for Oscar Piastri's championship hopes, of course. They're slim, and Oscar Piastri has just been overtaken by Charles Leclerc down into turn 14, and Piastri is now down in 7th place, not where he wanted to be, as Lewis Hamilton is also all over the rear of Esteban Ocon as he's lost a bit of ground to Nico Hülkenberg ahead, as we are starting to see these medium compound tyres start to struggle with on the 13th lap here at the Vegas Grand Prix. Another fastest sector for Lewis Hamilton. Unable to get past here, Esteban Ocon there still. But wow, Charles Leclerc is on the move. He's now looking at Isaac Hadjar down into turn 5. Will Charles Leclerc, who says he's pushing like an animal, be able to get past Isaac Hadjar here? No, but you wouldn't put it past him to get it done the next time around. They make their way down the strip. So right now, Oscar Piastri would only be gaining 6 points here. He would lose 8 points overall to Lando Norris, with Norris up in P3, and that would be a 32-point gap with 2 race weekends remaining, with one of those being a sprint race. So a lot for Oscar Piastri to do, and he would have to require a DNF of Lando Norris in the last stages of this championship to have any opportunity of winning the title. So it is definitely looking like it's slipping away from Oscar Piastri. But let's go back with Charles Leclerc, who is currently in P6. He's 3 tenths behind Isaac Hadjar before they even get to the DRS, and he's going to be closing on Isaac Hadjar here. He's got a bit more of a draggier setup, Charles Leclerc, but you do suspect he's going to be aggressive. He's going to have the DRS open, surely late on the brakes, just as he did on Oscar. He's going for it down into turn 14, as he's done so many times before here, Charles Leclerc. He loves this track. It's a shame that he didn't qualify much better yesterday. And Hamilton has also got past Alex Albon. It's Hamilton and Albon side by side into turn 14. And I think Alex Albon's going to come out ahead of the Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton, but they're still side by side. And Albon has just got past Lewis Hamilton. But Hamilton's going to come back at Alex Albon as they're side by side as they make their way down into turn 17. And Albon backs out. And I think Alex Albon's actually coming into the pit lane. So Alex Albon is going to go for an early pit stop here. Alex Albon, wow. So Lewis Hamilton training positions there. Kimi Antonelli just set the fastest lap of the race at 35.6. Hamilton lost a lot of ground there on Esteban Ocon ahead. Not entirely sure what happened, as it was a comfortable overtake for Charles Leclerc and Isaac Hadjar. Of course, Charles Leclerc maybe not Isaac Hadjar's race today, but wow. So Alex Albon, what tyre is he on to? Alex Albon is on the medium compound tyres. It seems like this could be a 2-stop race today for the drivers out there. Alex Albon now comes out dead last. He is going to be behind Liam Lawson and Pierre Gasly. Was the hard compound tyre starting to... as George Russell... No, George Russell says steering same again. George Russell, who's 1.8 seconds behind Max Verstappen, being chased down and closed down upon by Lando Norris. He had issues with the power steering of his F1 car yesterday in qualifying, and he is saying it is popping up again right now. So not as reactive and responsive as he would like it to be. Still 1.7 seconds, 1.8 seconds behind Max Verstappen, so he's dealing with it quite nicely. Set the same lap time last time around, and yes, exactly the same lap this time around, 36.2, so... But, of course, that is not ideal for him. As Oscar Piastri, can he maybe get past Isaac Hadjar this time around? He's well within the rear wing and the slipstream of Isaac Hadjar. Alex Albon. Oh, no, Alex Albon pitted as he hit Lewis. Look, contact between Alex Albon and Lewis Hamilton. What the hell happened there? Alex Albon just hit Lewis Hamilton. So a forced stop for... a forced stop, for Alex Albon for damage on Lewis Hamilton, as Isaac Hadjar is still holding off Oscar Piastri. A false start, confirmation of a 5-second time penalty for moving before the signal for Kimi Antonelli. So Kimi Antonelli will have a 5-second pit stop, 5-second penalty to take at his next pit stop. But wow, I want to see that replay again. Did Alex Albon just... Similar to what Lewis Hamilton did on Pierre Gasly, on Colapinto in Brazil, I think Alex Albon has just done the same, and he's just completely misjudged it on Lewis Hamilton, and he has picked up front wing damage. Lewis Hamilton, I'm not sure if he has any damage to his car. He seems to be going okay. His pace, of course, is not particularly quick compared to the front runners who are on the medium compound tyres, but he is on the hard compound tyre, looking to go very long in this race. We'll get an update for you, though, guys, on whether that is going to be damage to Lewis Hamilton's car. If he's received damage from that, as it has been noted, an incident causing a collision. Alex Albon on Lewis Hamilton. So we will keep an eye on that one. But Max Verstappen, 36.3. George Russell, with that power steering issue that he has on that Mercedes at the moment, is faring quite nicely. But he is being closed down upon by Lando Norris. Lando Norris, who has been sitting back looking after his tyres, is now on the push. 1.5 seconds behind behind George Russell, with Max Verstappen only 3.4 seconds ahead. So Lando Norris is going to be all in the review. And there's a VSC deployed. VSC for debris out on circuit. Of course, that's what we had early on in this race due to that first corner collision. And there is debris out on circuit, no doubt, from the collision from Alex Albon on Lewis Hamilton. And, well, I'm yet to see a replay of it, but Alex Albon, once again, Alex Albon kind of throwing away some decent opportunity for him. Of course, it's a race of recovery for Alex Albon after a poor qualifying yesterday of crashing and hitting the barrier into turn 16. And, well, where his teammate is up in P4, he is just faltering in the closing stages of this season. And, indeed, there is debris out on circuit. Front wing, it looks like quite a large proportion of a front wing, actually, is out on circuit. So, yet to see if, wonder if anyone will pit on under this VSC, whether they'll get the opportunity to pit under this VSC. Of course, there is a 6.5 second advantage by pitting under the VSC conditions, then pitting under green flag conditions. But the VSC is starting to end, so no one is going to be able to take advantage of this VSC as it is coming to an end. So Max Verstappen leads currently from George Russell, who was 1.7 seconds behind, so he needs to close up the gap here, because Max Verstappen could be getting quite a nice advantage over George Russell if George Russell is caught napping. I think George Russell has been caught napping under the VSC restart here, as Isaac Hadjar, with that VSC restart, has also been caught napping, as Oscar Piastri has taken full advantage of it, as Hadjar and Piastri are side by side as they head through turn 14, and you can see them there losing ground to Charles Leclerc, but Oscar Piastri holds onto it, but Hadjar will be looking to come straight back at Oscar Piastri down into turn 1, and Oscar Piastri now finds himself back up into P6 after getting overtaken by Charles Leclerc. And Piastri will hold on to that lead. So a few drivers caught napping there, particularly one of them, George Russell. As George Russell as Fernando Alonso is in the pits, as George Russell was 1.7 seconds, 1.8 seconds behind Max Verstappen when that VSC came out, and he's now 2.5 seconds behind him, and now has Lando Norris just over 1 second behind him as well. So George Russell caught napping there, particularly. But Oscar now up into P6. Fair, respectful racing between Isaac Hadjar and Oscar Piastri, as Oscar is now back up into P6 and will be looking to try and close the gap on to Charles Leclerc. So Max Verstappen, 17 laps completed here, leads 2.2 seconds ahead of George Russell. Lando Norris, 1.2 seconds. There is a pit stop window. There is a pit stop window for Max Verstappen on Ollie Behrman. 23.5 seconds is the gap there for Max to Ollie Behrman, who is still holding up Nico Hulkenberg, Esteban Ocon and Lewis Hamilton. George is 100% struggling with the steering. Can't quite see it yet, but he definitely got... I mean, his race pace was okay, to be fair, comparing to Max Verstappen. But Lewis Hamilton is in with it, as Ollie Behrman looks like he's got a slow turn 12 there, as Nico Hulkenberg is going to be overtaking the Britishman here. The British driver, as they make their way down DRS open into turn 14, and Ollie Behrman will now be holding. George Russell has just got overtaken. He's side by side with Russell. No, Russell's in the pits. Sorry, Russell's in the pits. Oh my goodness, I took my eyes off there for 2 seconds, and I thought Lando Norris and George Russell were side by side into turn 1, but George Russell is the first one to pull the trigger here for this early pit stop. So George Russell getting off those medium compound tyres. That's released Lando Norris, who just set the fastest lap of the race, a 35.7, 4 tenths quicker than Max Verstappen, and Lando now has a little bit of more clean air ahead of him. Max did set the fastest first sector there, but it's just been instantly taken away by Lando. So Lando is now back on pace of the front of Max Verstappen. Oscar Piastri in P5. He's now into P5 with George Russell pitting. So George Russell, they saw a gap for him. He's on the hard compound tyre and he's come out ahead of Nico Hulkenberg. Ollie Behrman pitted in that battle as well and has come out behind Fernando Alonso. So he's lost a bit of ground to Fernando Alonso there, Ollie Behrman. Alonso has gained a position there on Ollie Behrman and has done the undercut. So Fernando Alonso doing quite nicely back up, net back up into P7, I believe it is. But what will Max Verstappen do? Will Max Verstappen still go long here? Will Lando Norris pit in response to George Russell? What will they do? Lewis Hamilton's still stuck behind Esteban Ocon, as Ocon is still just getting a little bit of assistance from the slipstream from Hulkenberg up ahead. But Hamilton is on the hard compound tyre, looking to go much deeper into this race than that of Ocon. But let's see, DRS open, they're the closest drivers out on circuit. Max stays out, as does Lando Norris as well. So no response to the George Russell pit stop. Hamilton, DRS open, will he have an opportunity here down into turn 14? Late on the brakes? No, as Ocon is still just getting enough of a tow from Hulkenberg up ahead. This is our chance. Let's try and pick up the pace, as that is what Norris has been told. That is what Norris has been told. So Alex Albon is being currently investigated for 2 separate incidents. One with Lewis Hamilton for running into the back of him, which has caused him to get front wing damage and has forced an early pit stop, and for a start procedure infringement, which we are yet to get confirmation of, as Lewis Hamilton is all under the rear wing of Esteban Ocon. He was 2 tenths behind into the braking zone of turn 1. He's got the DRS open now. Is he going to go for a late move on Ocon, who has lost a bit of ground to Hulkenberg? No, he just still doesn't have enough. Ocon doing wonders here to hold off Lewis and put a spanner into works to his overall race. But Lewis is up 9 places. He did gain 6 places very early on, or 7 places early on in this race on merit, with a couple of retirements and avoiding the carnage at the start of the race. And he now finds himself in the point scoring positions. His teammate is up there in P4. Lando Norris hit the fastest lap of the race last time out as well. 2.8 seconds is the gap now to Verstappen. So he has the pace overall on Max Verstappen, but he is now approaching the dirty air of that Red Bull. So Max and Norris still going deeper into this race than that of George Russell, who pitted onto the hard compound tyre, and he finds himself in P7, closing down Isaac Hadjar as there was a gap there. Back on board with Lewis Hamilton, as Verstappen and Norris do stay out. Hamilton is a lot closer than he has been for some time, and Ocon is a bit further away from Nico Hulkenberg. Hamilton is gaining. He's gaining, but it's still not enough, as Lewis Hamilton needs to try and position his car through turn 14 and 15. As Antonelli is told of his 5-second time penalty for his start, for his false start. Hamilton, lot closer than he has been for some time. Is Ocon going to dive into the pits? No, there's still, Lewis Hamilton is much closer. Surely this is it for Lewis Hamilton. No, it's not aggressive enough, Lewis Hamilton, on the brakes, and that's where it shows not having the confidence to be late on the brakes on Esteban Ocon, the harsh driver ahead of you, whereas Charles Leclerc has already been very late on the brakes, on both Piastri and Isaac Hadjar to make some very good overtakes. As there's a 5-second time penalty for Alex Albon there, causing a collision. So Alex Albon deemed at fault for that collision with Lewis Hamilton. Yet to know if Lewis Hamilton has actually any damage to the rear of his car. I don't know. I need to see a replay again of where that damage actually occurred to Alex Albon. It was definitely on his front wing, but I don't know if it was the tyre that Alex Albon made contact with. But Lewis Hamilton, I think, seems to have got away with damage, any visible damage that I can see anyway, looking at the images on my screen. So Max Verstappen still 2.6 seconds ahead of Lando Norris. Lando is starting to chip away at that gap to Max Verstappen, but he is fully within the dirty air, and those big gains that he was making on him has started to falter. So George Russell gets past Isaac Hadjar down into turn 14. Will Isaac Hadjar fight this hard? Lewis Hamilton finally has an opportunity on Esteban Ocon down into turn 14, but Esteban Ocon looks like he's trying to outbrake Lewis Hamilton into turn 14. They're side by side, and I don't know who's going to come out ahead here. It looks like Lewis Hamilton has finally got past Esteban Ocon. 21 laps he has pretty much spent behind Esteban Ocon, and he has just got past him. So Lewis Hamilton finally passed Esteban Ocon up into P8 with Isaac Hadjar pitting now off of the medium compound tyre. Only a reprimand for Alex Albon. They didn't want to compound his misfortunes there or the hurt with a 5-second time penalty for causing a collision on Lewis Hamilton. I think it's just very similar to what Lewis did with Pierre Gasly with Colapinto in the Alpine in Brazil. Just completely misjudged the overspeed that he had compared to Lewis, and he ran into the back of him. So Hamilton now up into P8. He's up 11 positions, but still yet to make a pit stop as he's on the alternative strategy. So rundown of this grid as we are on the 21st lap of 50 here. Max Verstappen leads from Lando Norris in P2. Carlos Sainz finds himself in P3. Charles Leclerc is in P4, up 5 places with Oscar Piastri in P5. George Russell, who's made a pit stop from second place, finds himself in P6 in some clean air, trying to chase down Oscar Piastri as Charles Leclerc is looking maybe at a move here on his former teammate Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz, the last Ferrari driver to win a race for the red team, and well, he is looking in his rearview mirrors at his former team and teammate of Charles Leclerc. Oscar Piastri, yes, in P5. George Russell, P6. Hulkenberg is up 4 places into P7. Hamilton up 11 places, as we mentioned, on the hard compound tyre. Alternative strategy to most is in P8. Esteban Ocon is in P9. Antonelli, with a 5-second time penalty, finds himself in P10. Hadjar is made that pit stop and has moved up. Is in P11. Colapinto is 12th. So Yuki Tsunoda is up 7 places after starting from the pit lane in P13. Alonso is 14th. Behrman 15th. Gasly 16th. Lawson 17th. Albon 18th with a 5-second time penalty. And Bortoletto and Stroll are retirements from this race after a first corner incident. So Oscar Piastri is in the pits and he's found some nice clean air. So he will come out on the hard compound tyre, no doubt, and will find himself behind Antonelli and Ocon, who are a good amount of seconds up the road, as Lewis Hamilton looks at the rear now of the Stake F1 car. That's what he's going to be closing down on, and he was half a second quicker last time out than that of Nico Hulkenberg, who is also on the hard compound tyre. But closest out there on track right now is actually Colapinto, Tsunoda, and Fernando Alonso. As Fernando Alonso is looking for a move on Yuki Tsunoda down into turn 5. We know Yuki likes to defend hard, and well, Fernando Alonso, I think, has got ahead with that tyre advantage, but he has 5-lap-old hards compared to Yuki Tsunoda's 20-lap-olds. Yuki did not fight that too hard there, and Alonso moves up into P13. Carlos Sainz, though, is all looking in his rearview mirrors. It is full of the red Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, his former teammate. Does Charles? We know he likes a late break. He likes a late move down into turn 14. Is he going to do that on his own former teammate? It looks like he's going to. They're side by side. I think Charles just had to back out slightly as Lando Norris decides to pit. Lando Norris has now pitted, so it'll be both McLarens pitting here. But will Leclerc be able to get back past Carlos Sainz? Sainz positions his car nicely there, as Sainz does now dive into the pit lane. Sainz dives into the pit lane. So Charles Leclerc, no, he didn't go for the move. He was a little bit too... No, he did try to go for the move. Yes, Carlos Sainz went defensive. Charles Leclerc tried to force him out of position. And, well, good battles. Who would have thought that we would see a battle out on track between Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc for merit, for position, this high up for the podium positions. So Lando Norris comes out behind George Russell, as was the case when they first pitted. So George Russell is now back up into P3. Charles Leclerc finds himself in P2, still yet to make a pit stop. What will Max Verstappen do? Carlos Sainz is being overtaken here by Oscar Piastri as they go down into turn 5. So Carlos Sainz has just lost out on a position there to Oscar Piastri, as Oscar Piastri has done the undercut on Carlos Sainz. So that extra lap of heat in those tyres. I'm not entirely sure if it was a slow pit stop for Carlos Sainz, because I didn't think he was really in the clutches of Oscar Piastri. So let's see if that is the case. But Max Verstappen, is he going to respond? Is Red Bull going to respond to that of Lando Norris and George Russell? We will see. It's a 20-second gap, remember. 20-second pit stop for the lost... Sorry, 20-second pit stop lost time. So he also almost has a full pit stop gap, Max Verstappen, on Charles Leclerc. So that might be what they're looking for right now, is to see how long Charles Leclerc is going to stay out there for, because Max might be able to not even lose any positions here out on track with a pit stop. Will Charles decide to pit? No, he stays out right now. So George Russell is gaining on Charles Leclerc, so Max Verstappen stays out there, and he may not even lose any positions and get undercut by that of by George Russell or Lando Norris. Oh, Lewis Hamilton up 13 places. He avoided a big collision at the start of this race where there was a lot of carnage, and he gained 6 places on the first lap alone. He's finally got past Esteban Ocon, who he got stuck behind for quite a considerable amount of time, as Ollie Behrman gets past Yuki Tsunoda now, as Yuki is just trying to extend this hard compound tyre. As Antonelli with a 5-second time penalty, can he dispatch Esteban Ocon? Ocon seems to be a driver who's quite difficult to overtake today. Now, that Haas has a bit of pace in a straight line, it seems. Hamilton gaining still on Nico Hulkenberg. That gap down to 1.8 seconds. Well, let's have a look at the gaps. So George Russell is gaining on Charles Leclerc, but not as much as you think he would do. Lando Norris is on fresh hards as well, so he's going to have to try and get those up to temperature, and he'll be losing a bit of time. Carlos Sainz, we yet to see a replay of his pit stop as to whether that pit stop was slow or not. But Carlos Sainz has undoubtedly lost time there to Oscar Piastri, and now finds himself a position behind the Australian. So that's good news for Piastri fans. But net-wise, he is up a position after that pit stop. Kimi Antonelli closest out there on track. Is he going to be able to get past Esteban Ocon here? I do suspect he will do. DRS Open, we know that Mercedes is quick here today, arguably the second fastest car. And, well, Esteban Ocon on those 23-lap-old mediums is just not going to be able to defend here. Maybe he will be able to. Kimi Antonelli late on the brakes. He has a 5-second time penalty. Is he going to come out ahead of Esteban Ocon? He does indeed, as Charles Leclerc now decides to pit. And Max Verstappen has a 22-second gap to George Russell. So, will Max Verstappen extend this stint, or will they now make that pit stop with a 2-second, really, a buffer to George Russell with a 20-second average pit stop lost time? We will see. As Norris is told, you've got to tell me things. What am I doing in my race? We think this is Plan B for everyone. We want to go forwards. That is what. And that is what Lando Norris has just been told. It's Plan B. So will Max Verstappen respond here as he makes his way through Sector 3 now down the strip as Charles Leclerc comes out ahead of Carlos Sainz. So Charles Leclerc has gained there. So Carlos Sainz has lost time, not just to Oscar Piastri, but also lost time to Charles Leclerc. So Carlos Sainz has been a terrible pit stop for Williams, but they've lost positions to both Piastri and Charles Leclerc. So I've got to presume that was a slow pit stop. That was a slow pit stop. How many pits are normal? It was on the cusp of being a 1 or 2 stop race. This was. So I think it could be a 2-stop race. The way that we're looking at the moment. It all depends on how long these hard compound tyres are going to last. No, actually, I think it's going to be a 1-stop race, to be honest. I think we've just seen the medium compound tyre go 24 laps, almost halfway through this race. The hard compound tyre, no doubt, is going to go further than that with less fuel on board as well. But Max Verstappen is in the pit lane. So Max Verstappen in the pit lane. So a good pit stop required here for the Red Bull team. Will Max Verstappen be able to hold on to P1 as George Russell makes his way around turn 1? And I think that's been a good pit stop for Max Verstappen. But of course, he is going to have cold tyres here while George Russell has 8-lap-old warm tyres. So George Russell, this is now his opportunity to try and get past Max Verstappen. Looking at the pit stop of Max Verstappen, and it was a... Was it a 3-second pit stop for Max Verstappen? So not the quickest that they've done, but not too bad in the grand scheme of things. They had a bit of a buffer to George Russell, and you can see that now. So George Russell needs to capitalise on the extra temperature and performance that he has in those hard compound tyres right now on Max Verstappen, who is fresh out of the pits. He needs to get those hards up to temperature. He's not going to have the traction, but he has the clean air, importantly, Max Verstappen, whereas George Russell does not. And you can see there out of turn 9, that slow traction zone of turn 9, that corner, Max Verstappen gains a 10th or so on George Russell. And will he gain a 10th or so, importantly, through turn 12? And I think he maintains that gap. So you can see there, Sector 2, Max Verstappen. Wow, what a second sector for Max Verstappen. He did not struggle to get those tyres up to temperature at all, did he? Because he's just gone purple on his outlap in Sector 2. That is a tremendous sector by Max. I did not expect that, as George Russell actually found himself 2 tenths down on the Dutchman. And Lando Norris was also 3 tenths down on Max in that outlap of Sector 2. So what a second sector that is. Unbelievable. Lewis Hamilton is in P5. He is up 14 places. He would love a safety car right now to get a cheap pit stop. That is for sure. He is still yet to make a pit stop on this hard compound tyres, on the alternative strategy. He should be, of course, quicker at the end of this race, going on to the softer medium compound tyre. But we have only seen a couple of VSCs here today. We've seen a few overtakes, though. But let's have, with everyone now making, other than those on the hard, who started on the hard compound tyre, let's have a run through of this grid. Max Verstappen leads by 1.6 seconds, 1.7 seconds, 8. It keeps going further out and out and out. It's just gained half a second on George Russell in that first sector. So George Russell, who's complaining about power steering on his Mercedes, just like he did yesterday in qualifying, has just lost half a second. Unbelievable in that first sector to Max Verstappen, who leads by 1.8 seconds to the British driver. Lando Norris is 3.5 seconds further back. He's down 2 places in third, but he is gaining considerable amount of points over his nearest championship rival, Oscar Piastri, and that is all that matters for Lando Norris in the grand scheme of things for this weekend. Nico Hulkenberg still yet to make a pit stop, finds himself up 7 places in P4, with Lewis Hamilton up 14 places after starting 19th. He's also on the hard compound tyre, yet to make a pit stop in P5. Kimi Antonelli made a very early pit stop. He is up He's up 11 places, also in P6, but he has a 5-second time penalty to be taken either at the end of this race or his next pit stop. Esteban Ocon is in P7 with Oscar Piastri very close behind him in P8. He has made a pit stop. Esteban Ocon is still yet to make a pit stop on that medium compound tyre. Charles Leclerc is in P9. He is going quite quickly. Fastest middle sector for Charles Leclerc, but not as fast as Max Verstappen, who sets the fastest lap of the race. Carlos Sainz is in P10. He had a poor pit stop by the Williams team, had a poor pit stop, and he lost 2 positions to Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc as a result of it. He's in P10. Isaac Hadjar is in P11 with Fernando Alonso in P12. Ollie Behrman is in P13 with Yuki Tsunoda in P14, and Oscar Piastri gets past Esteban Ocon as Ocon now finally decides to dive into the pit lane. Pierre Gasly is in P15 with Liam Lawson, who had turn 1, lap 1 collision with Oscar Piastri there, picked up damage as a result of it, and he's down in P16. Franco Colapinto is 17th with Albon, with a 5-second time penalty for him and a forced early pit stop due to the collision with Lewis Hamilton, which he has been given a 5-second time penalty for, is dead last of the runners, with Bortoletto and Stroll out of this race. But just want to say a big thank you, guys, as we have just gone past the halfway point of this race. Hit that like and subscribe button. Much appreciated. If we could get to 67,000 subs today, that would be really good. Over 11,000 of you here for this very early morning race in the UK. So, yeah, thank you for everyone. Of course, for those of you around the world, it is a nice, suitable time for you, and I hope you are enjoying the coverage. So, only 2 more race weekends to go. Lando Norris, right now, will be gaining 9 points on Oscar Piastri if the results were to stay as they are, but Oscar Piastri will by default gain positions on Antonelli, Hamilton and Nico Hülkenberg. So really, Oscar Piastri is only 1 position behind Lando Norris right now. So yes, once Lewis Hamilton decides to pit, he has got a lot closer to Nico Hülkenberg. 27 lap holes, hard tyres for both Nico Hülkenberg and Lewis Hamilton after they started this race on the hard compound tyre. Good races from them at the moment. Max Verstappen 2.1 seconds ahead of George Russell now. So with that clean air and those fresher tyres, he is starting to pull away from the Mercedes driver. Lando Norris 35.3 from him. So Max Verstappen at the moment in the ascendancy, and unless there is maybe a safety car restart or another VSC or something, that is the only way that I think he's going to be thwarted from winning this race. After, of course, Oscar Piastri, after Lando Norris gave up the race lead after defending too aggressively at the start into turn 1 and ran wide and left the door open for Max and George to go straight through. Closest out there on track is actually Alex Albon or Franco Colapinto. Franco Colapinto still yet to score a point. The only driver to score a point on the grid this year. The only car, actually, with Jack Doohan failing to score a point as well. As Yuki Tsunoda, as Liam Lawson decides to go into the pit lane. Albon unable to get past Colapinto there. Will he be able to? We will see. But Hülkenberg under attack still from Lewis Hamilton. Does Lewis have enough? When will these drivers decide to pit? You've got to suspect, but they're still going to go very long into this race. The pace of Lewis Hamilton in relation to George Russell, Norris and Verstappen is actually not too shabby, considering he is stuck in the dirty air of the Stake F1 car of Nico Hülkenberg. Really, really close to Hülkenberg there, but he loses traction through turn 14, 15 and 16, that tight section of corners, and you can see he's 4 tenths back of Nico Hülkenberg, and it's probably not going to be enough to get past. And, well, Lewis Hamilton now decides to come into the pit lane. So what will Lewis Hamilton go on to? Surely it's the medium compound tyre to the end of this race. Where is he going to rejoin? You suspect he's going to come out ahead of Fernando Alonso. So, Charles Leclerc sets the fastest lap of the race of 34.9, and he is definitely on the move. 2.3 seconds behind Oscar Piastri, as Oscar Piastri is also closing in on Kimi Antonelli. But you can see there a position gain for Oscar Piastri with Lewis Hamilton diving into the pit lane. So, yes, Hamilton now comes out and rejoins in P10. So, Hamilton is in the points. Hamilton is in the points. Started from 19th and is now back into the points, and he'll be looking to close down Isaac Hadjar, who, of course, is a big fan of Lewis Hamilton. But, of course, Hadjar has his own race to run today and is looking to score decent points in the grandstanding of things. Oof. New to F1, is this a good Grand Prix to start on? It is generally, yes. I do believe right now, in my personal opinion, this isn't living up to the 2 races that we've had prior, but it's actually a surprisingly decent race circuit. When this first got introduced, Vegas, I don't think everyone was too enamoured by it, but it has provided us some good racing, and I think it still provided us some good racing here. But the race at this stage, with 21 laps remaining, is just fizzling out a little bit. So Lewis Hamilton, can he get those medium compound tyres up to temperature? You can see Fernando Alonso has closed the gap down quite significantly there to Lewis Hamilton, as he has hard compound tyres that are definitely up to temperature. So Hamilton needs to be careful that he doesn't become susceptible to an overtake to Fernando Alonso, as Hulkenberg now dives into the pit lane. So will Lewis Hamilton be able to get the undercut done on Nico Hulkenberg? Let's see. Of course, Hulkenberg has just responded there. The Stake F1 team have responded to Lewis Hamilton. How much time did Hulkenberg lose by staying out an extra lap longer? As Lewis Hamilton is actually looking to be overtaken by Fernando Alonso. And we know there's no love lost between these two. Fernando Alonso would love nothing more to get one over on Lewis Hamilton and his old team in Ferrari. And this is not good for Lewis Hamilton. He's actually lost time on that outlap compared to Nico Hulkenberg. A very, very slow outlap for Lewis Hamilton, struggling to get those mediums up to temperature. And, well, he's lost quite a significant amount of time having to defend there to Fernando Alonso to Nico Hulkenberg. So, unbelievable there for the Ferrari driver, and Nico Hulkenberg will be happy to see that Hamilton is so far behind him in those rear view mirrors, and Hamilton is going to have to get the job done out on track rather than in the pit lane. So yeah, wow, didn't expect that. T12 is really tricky. Lots of people locking up. Yeah, T12 is sort of like that. So is that where Lewis Hamilton locked up there? I didn't see that on-ball coverage. But yeah, Ollie Behrman looking to try and get back past Fernando Alonso as well. So this will be an advantage for Ollie Behrman, looking to try and capitalise here as Max Verstappen sets the fastest lap of the race of 34.8 until Lando Norris takes it away from him, as Lando Norris is now starting to gain on George Russell. So 2.1 seconds Lando Norris is, or 2 seconds back behind George Russell, as George Russell is starting to lose ground quite considerably on Max. He lost half a second last time, George Russell. He has 8 lap older tyres than that of Verstappen as well. And 5 lap older tyres than Lando Norris. So definitely at risk here as Fernando Alonso gets overtaken by Ollie Behrman. There we said Ollie Behrman will be looking to capitalise on Alonso getting backed up by Lewis Hamilton, and he has done indeed, as Ollie Behrman, on good run of form, looking to score more points in 3 successive races, and well, he is up into P11, but Fernando Alonso will most undoubtedly not like that, as Alex Albon also overtakes Colapinto down into turn 14, but they're still side by side, Colapinto and Alex Albon. Both of these drivers have crashed at this corner in the past. Alex Albon yesterday and Colapinto last year, and well, that could have potentially brought out a safety car, but they have both got through that safely, and Albon has got ahead of Franco Colapinto and is up into P16. Kimi's pace is good. Kimi's pace is good, actually, yeah, on the hard compound tyre. 35.7, 29 lap old hard compound tyres as well. He has a 5-second time penalty to take at either the end of the race or at his next pit stop. But if we look at those interval times, if they are highlighted in green, if they're not fully highlighted, where, of course, they're within 1 second, it means that they are gaining on the driver ahead. And look at that. We see Norris is gaining on George Russell. He's just outside of the DRS of George Russell now with the fastest lap of the race. He was 9 tenths quicker than that of George Russell. So George Russell starting to struggle here in this race compared to Norris and Verstappen. We can see that Charles Leclerc is starting to gain on Piastri as well. He was significantly quicker that last lap. As Ocon now gets past Fernando Alonso. So Fernando Alonso, who was chomping at the bit to get past Lewis Hamilton, has now lost a position to both Haas's in 2 successive laps. So Fernando Alonso now down in 13th place. So this race hasn't gone particularly too well for the Aston Martin driver, and he's going to be fuming, you imagine, Fernando Alonso, as he was comfortably in the points before that early pit stop. So maybe pitting too early, or they are going on to a 2-stop strategy. But Aston Martin, as they so often do with Fernando Alonso, seem to make the wrong strategy call. So those radio messages are going to be interesting for sure. That front wing damage is probably hurting now. Who has front wing damage? Does Fernando Alonso have front wing damage? Does he? Surely not. Maybe he does. I don't know. But Lando Norris within the DRS, though, of George Russell, as we join this battle of George Russell and Lando Norris. pitting potentially too early. We're starting to see these hard compound tyres, those who are on 16-lap-old hards, 15-lap-old hards, they are really not lasting right now. As George Russell on the radio, as he's going to be susceptible, says, I know Norris will be quick. I'll do what I can to defend from him, but I don't want to do something stupid and risk the podium, is what George Russell has just said. So George Russell almost accepting that he will be overtaken by Lando Norris here. And I guess the question is, if Norris can clear Russell, could he potentially catch Max Verstappen? With 17 laps remaining, that would be very interesting to see. Of course, Norris with the driver standings, drivers' championship at the forefront of his mind today, as Max Verstappen sets the fastest first sector. So Norris won't want to do anything stupid, of course, in relation to battling Max Verstappen. This would be a very, very good result for him. Right now, he is gaining 5 points on Oscar Piastri, but if he gets past George Russell, that, of course, that points advantage will increase. So just finishing ahead of Oscar Piastri is very, very good for Lando Norris fans, and Lando Norris in particular for his driver championship. That would take him over the all-important 25 points, give him a free DNF difference between for him to play with in the last 2 race weekends. But here we go. Lando Norris, he's less than half a second out of the exit of turn 12 as Norris is told, you want me to try DRS? Well, yes, Norris, that is what he's told. Let's use DRS and let's go get Max. So there is belief in the McLaren garage, particularly on Lando Norris' side, as Norris gets past George Russell into turn 14. George Russell, who pitted potentially too early in this race onto the hard compound tyre. And, well, I suspected George would be quick here today, but it seems he has issues occurring again with the power steering in that Mercedes. He is dropped down into P3, back up a position from where he initially started, and Lando Norris is now up into P2 and has his sights fully set on Max Verstappen. Almost identical laps of tyres that they have. Max Verstappen is on 9 lap-old hards and Lando Norris is on 12 lap-old hards. He has 5 seconds to gain on Max Verstappen. Would he be able to catch him and overtake him? As we know, catching is one thing, overtaking is another. Max Verstappen has the clean air. Norris has to keep a tyre advantage, which he doesn't have on laps undertaken on that set of tyres anyway, to catch Max Verstappen. So, but we have 16 laps to find out whether that is possible or not. Oof. Let's see a Max and Norris fight. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But an easy overtake for Lando Norris there. Very, very easy overtake for sure. But welcome, everyone. Hope you are well. And, well, we have consistently stayed at our viewership in this early hours of the morning. So big thank you for everyone for tuning in to this Vegas Grand Prix. We have 16 laps remaining. Not long to go here. And, well, how time flies, eh? How time flies. But hit that like and subscribe button. It'd be much appreciated. Nearly at 1,000 likes. And, of course, we are approaching 66,500 subscribers. So, yeah, nearly 67,000. So, fastest middle sector for Lando Norris there. Will he be able to catch Max Verstappen? I mean, he already gained a couple of attempts there. Yeah, so he's 4.7 seconds. You can see he is gaining on Max Verstappen. But he needs to use, this is the important thing here, is that Max can just go at a constant pace. We saw this last year with Lewis Hamilton closing down the gap on George Russell, and but George Russell was just comfortably managing the gap at the front, ensuring that he had enough tyres left in case of a safety car, or in case, of course, his teammate caught him, so that he could end up defending from him. So George Russell needs to use more of his older tyres right now than Max Verstappen, just to catch. And then, of course, Max Verstappen will have enough tyres. So Max is told, Lando has been told to come and get you. So he's just been told the corners where he is slower compared to Lando Norris. And there was no response from Max on the radio. Message fully received. He knows the job at hand. And, well, no doubt Lando Norris has it all to do to try and catch Max. But in the grand standing of things, he'll be gaining 8 points on his championship rival and teammate, Oscar Piastri. Max Verstappen would still technically be winning. Max Verstappen would still technically mathematically be in the championship, reducing that gap down by 7 points from 49 to 42 with 2 race weekends remaining. So it's still in the realms of possibility, of course, a very, 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 very slim chance. But mathematically, he would still be within that chance. So, but yeah, you can see there, Lando Norris lost quite a bit of time in that first sector by getting called up by Alex Albon leaving the pit lane there at 27.3, whereas Max Verstappen set the fastest first sector. He lost 8 tenths on Max in that first sector alone, due to the lap traffic there of Alex Albon leaving the pit lane. Oh, well, guys, hope you are enjoying it. This will be a great battle if it happens. I hope so. If it finishes where it is now, Lando comfortably has one hand on the title. 100%, because that advantage goes out to not 24 points, but up to 32 points difference. And I believe that would be the gap that Oscar Piastri had at one point in time over Lando Norris after Zandvoort. But how the tables have turned and what a point swing it has been. But Oscar Piastri, speaking of the Australian, he is under the rear wing of Kimi Antonelli, and he is within DRS and is looking to get P4. Kimi Antonelli still yet to make a second pit stop, and he has a 5-second time penalty to take, whether it be at the end of the race added to his overall race time because of a false start, or whether it is taken at another pit stop. You do suspect that Kimi will be going to the end of this race on this tyre. And probably just to protect George Russell as well, because George Russell does seem to have some struggles in that Mercedes today, more so than I thought he would do. But Max Verstappen responding in kind to that radio message from his engineer, GP, that Norris has been told to go and get you, as he keeps setting a much, much better first sector time than Lando Norris. Almost gained 3-4 tenths there on Lando in that first sector, and he's pretty much equal in the middle sector as well. So this is going to be another purple lap, I believe, from Max Verstappen. A drag reduction system is what DRS is. It opens the rear wing of the car and it makes the car go quicker in a straight line, as Oscar Piastri has that right now and is experiencing that feeling as he is closing in on Kimi Antonelli, but he closes that DRS quite early there. You could see before he even got into the braking zone, he released the DRS because he didn't want to get too close to Kimi Antonelli. He wants to focus on the exit. Will he be able to get the slipstream and overtake Kimi Antonelli down into turn one? This is moments for Oscar Piastri. He needs to try and get past Kimi Antonelli right now so that he can try and chase down George Russell with 13 laps remaining. It is definitely possible for Oscar Piastri with George Russell struggling. Oscar Piastri is lapping quicker than that of Kimi Antonelli, even though he's being held up by him, as George Russell is just done a 35.0 and is losing time hand over fist to Norris and Verstappen. And you can see they're almost identical lap times there for Verstappen and Norris, both 34.2s, but Max Verstappen slightly quicker by a hundredth or so of a second as he set the fastest lap of the race. Liam Lawson is in the slipstream of Franco Colapinto. Of course, do not rule out the possibility of late safety cars. There is, whenever drivers go side by side, there is always a possibility of contact. We've seen 2 VSCs already, 4 collisions and debris out on circuit, but really for this race to be spiced up in the closing stages of this race, it would have to be a safety car. Albon retired at lap 38. He did indeed. Sorry, cats, move out the way. No rain in the vicinity. It is 17 degrees out there. We didn't expect any rain today, a low percentage chance. As look at that now. Charles Leclerc is saying, thank you very much, Kimi Antonelli, as I have been brought into the DRS of Oscar Piastri. But Oscar Piastri is a lot closer than he ever has been. He's in the DRS. Is he going to get side by side with Kimi Antonelli before they even get into the braking zone? I think he has done, and it does seem like it could be a comfortable move for for Oscar Piastri. But no, Kimi Antonelli defends, and Oscar cannot get the move done. And now Oscar is susceptible to an overtake for Charles Leclerc. While he was looking forward, he's now looking in his rearview mirrors as Charles Leclerc is going to be aggressive here, no doubt. He's been late on the brakes before. Does he have enough down into turn one? No, but this is getting very, very close here. And Kimi Antonelli, who is on 36 lap-old hards, is defending valiantly from Oscar Piastri and playing the team game right now for George Russell, who could be at risk if Antonelli was cleared by Oscar Piastri. Charles Leclerc looking, I thought he'd fall back really in this race, running a more draggier Ferrari, but he seems to have done very well in this race. Currently in P6, up 3 places. Lewis Hamilton update as well. He is in P9. He is in P10. Not got enough. Not got enough pace to catch Nico Hülkenberg with 12 laps remaining, which is interesting. Liam Lawson very close to Franco Colapinto again, by the way, down into the braking zone of turn 14. But really, it's all eyes on Kimi Antonelli, Oscar Piastri, and Charles Leclerc as they're the closest out there on circuit. Just doing a very, very good job. Kimi Antonelli with a 5-second time penalty to take for that start procedure infringement, that false start. So here we go again. Oscar Piastri, he is within the DRS of Kimi Antonelli, but it's not as close as he was last time around. But of course, he's going to be looking more so in his rearview mirrors than he is at, probably in front as Kimi Antonelli. One eye on his rearview mirrors, one eye ahead as he does stay close to Kimi Antonelli, but not close enough, really, you think, to get an opportunity down into turn one. So there's not enough of a tyre advantage Even though, which is crazy to say, ladies and gents, but we're at a stage of these tyres where Kimi Antonelli has 20-lap-old... Kimi Antonelli arguably has 20-lap older hard compound tyres, and he is able to hold off Oscar Piastri on the same set of tyres. That is crazy. That is crazy, and the state of F1, particularly with the tyres, that it's just unforgivable, to be perfectly honest with you, but that is the case. There is no way that someone who is on 20-lap older tyres should be able to defend this comfortably right now from someone who is on 20-lap fresher tyres. So, yeah, really, really bad by Pirelli, if you ask me. And hopefully things change for the better in 2026. So Max Verstappen, fastest lap for him overall. Again, 34.1, and he's putting out a gap to Lando Norris. So he is comfortably leading this race. And as we said, unless there is something dramatic that happens with a safety car or a red flag, this is definitely his race to lose. As Liam Lawson and Franco Colapinto have just gone side by side down into turn one. And Liam Lawson gets the move done on Franco Colapinto into turn one. And that's always a nice move to see. So back again, round lost count 10 for Oscar Piastri and Kimi Antonelli down into turn 14, and he's not going to have enough. As we just mentioned, really, really a shame that he's able to... Not a shame for Kimi Antonelli fans, of course, but it's a shame that, obviously, with a tyre delta like Kimi Antonelli has, that he's still able to hold on as much as he is, as Oscar Piastri is finding it very difficult to get past the Mercedes and dirty air of Kimi Antonelli, who has a 5-second time penalty as well to take at the end of this race. And, well, while they are battling for this race, George Russell did a 35.681 last time around, whereas Kimi Antonelli went quicker with a 34.4. So George Russell, of course, just managing to the end of this race, no doubt. But Kimi Antonelli and Piastri and Leclerc, those three, are going much quicker than that of George Russell up ahead. If Lando DNF would Max be third still, or would he go up to number one? No, he wouldn't go up to number one. No, he would gain 25 points on Lando Norris, and he'd still stay third. He would still stay third. But both Piastri and, of course, Verstappen would gain points on Lando Norris. But Lando Norris 5.8 seconds behind Max Verstappen. George Russell 7.4 seconds behind Lando Norris as well. But Antonelli still holding on to Piastri. He just has enough with that clean air. He just has enough traction to hold off Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc. And I don't see, unless there is a conscious mistake by Kimi Antonelli, I don't see there being a way past for Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc. And it's actually bringing Carlos Sainz into this battle, as Carlos Sainz is 3.6 seconds behind Charles Leclerc, and he'll be looking to try and capitalise and get a position back, and maybe even a couple of positions back after what was a very slow pit stop and cost him positions to Piastri and Charles earlier on. Lando is losing time and immediately pulls out a purple sector. Yes, 33.695, but it is still only a fraction of a second quicker than Max Verstappen, while it isn't the 33s, and that gap is 5.893 seconds. So unless Lando Norris has a considerable amount of time in hand, he's not going to catch Max. He might be able to catch him. I don't think he will, but he definitely won't have the advantage to get past, as we are seeing right now with Kimi Antonelli. He's got 19 lap older tyres than Oscar Piastri, and he is comfortably holding on to P4. So Max Verstappen and Lando Norris, I don't see how Lando will be able to catch him and overtake, while Lando actually has 3 lap older tyres than Max Verstappen, and he'd be in the dirty air. So Kimi going full distance with them hards? Yes, it'd be silly for him to pit right now. Of course, he is gaining. He is gaining here on George Russell, because George Russell has an issue with his power steering. So George Russell, an issue with his power steering, and you can see that gap is closing. Kimi Antonelli, it's 9.2 seconds. So George Russell is managing an issue here. And if it wasn't for Kimi Antonelli, I think George Russell would undoubtedly lose the podium position, and Oscar Piastri would get that podium position. Kimi Antonelli doing doing the teammate's job here, holding off Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc with 8 laps remaining. So otherwise, George Russell would definitely be at risk as he's on 24 lap old hards, but did a 35.0 last time out. But when we see Kimi Antonelli, Piastri and Leclerc cross the line, they'll be in the 34s as they were last time around, I suspect. And yes, a 34.5, so another half a second gain there by Kimi Antonelli, Piastri and Leclerc on George Russell, with Oscar Piastri setting the fastest last sector of the race. And Kimi Antonelli, of course, his race is almost ruined as well because he has a 5-second time penalty to take. So he would finish behind Carlos Sainz. Still a great recovery for Kimi Antonelli as he's up 13 places. And if he finishes in P8, it would still be a significant gain for Kimi Antonelli considering where he started. But the pace of the Mercedes clearly very good here to be able to hold off Piastri and Charles Leclerc with 20 lap older tyres. We see Lewis Hamilton, update for him, unable to gain ground on Nico Hülkenberg. So I don't know if he's got damaged, Lewis Hamilton, or if he just has no pace on this medium compound tyre. I would suspect, ladies and gents, that Lewis Hamilton is not gaining ground on Nico Hülkenberg, as he is probably being told to lift and coast, as we know that Ferrari loves to do. Whenever we see the Ferrari not have the pace, it's normally because there is lift and coast that is required. And Charles Leclerc, there is probably not any lift and coast. Well, Charles can lift and coast at this stage of the race because he can do that in the slipstream of Kimi Antonelli and Oscar Piastri. But I would suspect Lewis Hamilton in this second stint of this race has been told to lift and coast. You're back in the points. That's a good recovery for you, is probably what the pit wall was told to him, and he needs to bring this home. But he is being closed down upon by Esteban Ocon. There you can see 3.6 seconds to Esteban Ocon, the driver who he got held up behind for quite some time. Max won't be second in the standings as things stand. No, he will not be. He would still be third, and he will be 10 points behind Oscar Piastri. Lando Norris will be on 408 points, Oscar Piastri 376 points, and Max Verstappen on 366 points. 42 points will be Max Verstappen's gap to Lando Norris, gaining 7 points on Lando from P1 to P2, and Oscar Piastri would be 32 points behind behind Lando Norris, with only 2 race weekends remaining, one of those being a sprint race. Thank you for subscribing, by the way. Much appreciated. Continue to hit that like and subscribe button. If you could help the stream get over to 67,000 subscribers, it'd be much appreciated. We'll be back, of course, for the next couple of race weekends to end the season. And, of course, we provide you with plenty more content as well. As Oscar Piastri has had a conscious mistake there, and he's actually outside of the DRS of Kimi Antonelli. So Charles Leclerc, could he have an opportunity here? He would still be getting the slipstream, Oscar Piastri and Kimi Antonelli, but he's not going to have the DRS. Or maybe he doesn't have the DRS, I think. He did. Oh my goodness, he just snuck the DRS. I was just under that 1 second as they went across the detection line, but it was looking like it was going to be no DRS for Oscar Piastri, and that could have left him susceptible to an overtake from Charles Leclerc. What if Lando DNFs Qatar? Will he win the championship in Abu Dhabi? He would still have over 25 points advantage, of course, over Oscar Piastri, and that's the key for them. But of course, it is a sprint race weekend. If he was to DNF in both of the sprint race and the race, then there is an opportunity for Oscar Piastri to gain the championship lead back. But that's a big if, of course. But yes, Oscar Piastri still struggling to get past Kimi Antonelli. Max Verstappen is 5.6 seconds ahead. We have 6 laps remaining of this Las Vegas Grand Prix. It's not been the best Vegas Grand Prix that we have had. It's been okay, as Lucas Noda is looking to try and fight his former teammate Pierre Gasly down the strip into the braking zone of turn 14. It was chaotic at the start of the race, but we've had no safety cars, and the tyre strategy hasn't provided us, unfortunately, a suitable racing conditions here today. I'm gonna bang on about it, but yeah, Kimi Antonelli on 20 lap older tyres than Oscar Piastri is able to comfortably hold on to P4 from both Piastri and Charles Leclerc, who are on half the age tyres. So that is absolutely ridiculous, and that's why we find ourselves in this position with not too much occurring, with only 5 laps remaining as Max Verstappen crossed the start-finish line there. 5.9 seconds is the gap to Lando Norris. George Russell, 11.7 seconds. Bit of a shame, really, that George Russell has issues with his Mercedes. Maybe if he didn't have those issues, he might have been able to push Max some more. So who knows what could have happened there. Kimi Antonelli, we just mentioned, has a 5-second time penalty to take at the end of the race. He's no doubt going to the end now, and he's doing the teammate's job. I mean, you can see George Russell is managing an issue as Kimi is consistently catching George, as is Piastri and Charles Leclerc. 34.2. That gap is now down to 6.4 seconds. Sainz is in P7, down 4 places. Isaac Hadjar is in P8. Nico Hulkenberg is going to be scoring points, it seems. A good job from him. Lewis Hamilton is in P10. He is undoubtedly doing lift and coast, but he's getting caught by Esteban Ocon. So Ferrari, with Lewis Hamilton, could Lewis Hamilton lose a point here to Esteban Ocon if Esteban Ocon catches Lewis Hamilton on the mediums? You'd expect he would still have enough life in those mediums remaining, but Esteban Ocon is closing on those hard compound tyres. Lewis Hamilton's lap last time around was a 35.9. It was arguably a 35.6. Esteban Ocon has just gained 1.2 seconds in the last lap on Lewis Hamilton. So Lewis Hamilton, I haven't heard any radio messages, but I would suspect there is a considerable amount of management going on in that Ferrari. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that battle as Esteban Ocon is gaining quite considerably. Oscar Piastri is losing ground on Kimi Antonelli, which is crazy. The fact Piastri is losing ground on Kimi Antonelli. He's 1.2 seconds back. Charles Leclerc is a full second back behind, nearly a full second back behind Oscar Piastri. He might be saving right now as well, managing to the end of this race. And yeah, other than that, there's not really too much occurring out on track. With 4 laps remaining, Max Verstappen will be gaining 7 points on Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri, he'll be only 10 points behind Oscar, as Oscar will be finishing where he's... Oscar will be gaining another point. Oscar will be gaining another point on Kim here, because Kimi Antonelli will be dropping down with a 5-second time penalty to take at the end of this race. Yuki should be protecting Max. There's no need for Max to have protection from Yuki Tsunoda, as Yuki Tsunoda did get past at Pierre Gasly last time around. 8 seconds is the gap now from Lando Norris to Max Verstappen. So Lando Norris, no need to push now. Bring this home so that he can firmly put one hand on the Drivers' Championship, with his advantage going out to probably 31 points, I believe it is, when Oscar Piastri will finish in P4. Charles Leclerc is dropping back now as well from Oscar Piastri. So yes, all in management phase in the closing stages of this Vegas Grand Prix. Of course, they need to make these engines last to the end of the season, unless they are going to take a 10 grid place penalty. Esteban Ocon is still gaining on Lewis Hamilton. Much more of a response there from Lewis Hamilton with a 34.7 last time around. So he was doing a considerable amount of lift and coast and management, and responded to Esteban Ocon closing considerably in the last lap. That 1.2 second advantage that Esteban Ocon had, but he is still gaining. You can see there a 26.9 in the first sector compared to Lewis Hamilton's 27.2. So Lewis Hamilton is up 9 places and could be finishing in the points, as Oscar Piastri just closes in on Kimi Antonelli there. And this is the thing, I guess, now, is that Oscar Piastri doesn't have to really do anything stupid, because they know Kimi Antonelli has that 5-second time penalty. He's not going to be able to catch George Russell, although they are catching George at a rate of knots, but they are going to run out of laps, it seems. And, well, Kimi Antonelli has done a tremendous job by holding off Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc and allowing George Russell to manage this issue that he has in that Mercedes. Otherwise, George would be losing this podium. So I think, while, of course, the drinking age in Vegas is 21, I think George Russell, when they get back to Europe, where the drinking age is 18, he deserves to buy Antonelli a beer, because otherwise he wouldn't have this podium without him. Verstappen and Ford, made for each other, can't be a Ford. Well, we'll see. 2026 has a lot of unknowns, of course. It's going to be a very, very interesting season. Going to be a topsy-turvy one, personally, I think, in my opinion, where we could see throughout the season multiple changes to the regulations as they discover things in real time out on track. It's all well and good having things done in a simulation, but until you actually get out there and see it out on track in person, there could be some things that change and need to be changed, hence the increase in the cost cap. So yeah, going to be a very, very interesting one. We could have multiple teams dominating throughout the season, so be sure to tune in, of course, for that, and watch every single race here with myself, as I'll be bringing you another full season in 2026. But we still have 2 laps remaining here of this Las Vegas Grand Prix. We still have 2 more race weekends remaining with a sprint race in Qatar. It is not over until it is over. While it's still mathematically impossible, it is still possible to win a championship for both Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri. Max had to not finish outside of the top 3 today if Lando Norris was, of course, to finish ahead of him in either P2 or P1 for him to still mathematically be in within a chance. And, well, he is not only doing that, he is decreasing that lead to Lando Norris. However, I did not expect Lando Norris to finish P2 here this weekend. I thought the McLarens would struggle overall in the grand standing of things to the Mercedes and even the Ferraris. Yes, even the Ferraris, but he has proven me wrong with a great qualifying yesterday, and he is doing the job and bringing it home. He's 15 seconds to Max Verstappen now, though, so he's lost quite a considerable amount of time. He had a 37.7 last time around, Lando Norris. What happened there? He had a bit of an off. He had a bit of an off somewhere. Not that it really matters, but what has happened there, Lando Norris? 37.7. Has he got a slow puncture or something? What is going on with Lando Norris there? Did he have an off somewhere? We'll keep an eye out on his sector times. 32.7. And Norris is losing a lot of time here with 1 lap remaining. This is interesting. 16.5 seconds is the gap, but I'm looking more importantly to that gap to George Russell. What has happened with Lando Norris? That last lap, he's just done 2 high 37s in the last couple of laps. And if George Russell had a decent car underneath him, he would be able to catch him. But we're on the last lap of this race. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, by the way. Final lap of this Vegas Grand Prix. Max Verstappen is leading 17.5 seconds over Lando Norris, who has lost time hand over fist in the last few laps, maybe managing an issue, Lando Norris, in the closing stages here. And he might be thanking his lucky stars that he is on the last lap and there isn't maybe 2 or 3 more laps remaining, as George Russell, who is managing an issue himself, is catching the McLaren driver, Lando Norris, quite considerably here, as Kimi Antonelli is also catching George Russell. He's 1.8 seconds behind. So all happening on the last lap of this race as Max Verstappen makes his way down the strip for the final time. Just heard on the radio, just heard via the TV coverage that they are unaware of the issue that Lando Norris is managing right now to get this race. So it's a saving fuel issue. Lando Norris fuel issues is what has been told. So Lando Norris has fuel issues and is having to try and lift and coast here to get to the end of the race. But here we go, Max Verstappen. He comes across the line and wins the Las Vegas Grand Prix. He led from start to finish. And, well, Max Verstappen closes that gap by 7 points to Lando Norris here, as Lando Norris is looking and is going to be literally rolling across the line here, saving fuel in the closing stages of this race. And if George Russell had a decent Mercedes underneath him, he would maybe have got P2 as well. But Lando Norris gains 18 points there, and he gains, importantly, points on his championship rival and contender Oscar Piastri. Confirmation there of Kimi Antonelli, who did a tremendous job to hold up Charles Leclerc and Oscar Piastri, as Charles Leclerc had to do significant saving in the last lap there as well. And Kimi actually finishes in the top 5. Oh my God, what a drive from Kimi Antonelli, even with a full start. He finishes in P5. Oscar Piastri is in P4. Charles Leclerc is in P6. Carlos Sainz finishes in P7. We're watching Lewis Hamilton now. He is going to be coming across the line and finishing in P10 because he had Isaac Hadjar and Nico Hulkenberg finish ahead of him in P8 and P9. Lewis Hamilton across the line in P10. He scores a point. Lots of lift and coast, lots of management happening there in the closing stages of that race. Lando Norris, George Russell, both the Ferraris, as we have seen throughout all this season. Esteban Ocon finishes in P11, just outside the points. Ollie Behrman in P12. Fernando Alonso still yet to cross the line. He's going to be finishing in P13, down 6 places. I would say he's arguably the biggest loser today. Bortoletto and Stroll are the biggest losers today, and Alex Albon. But Alonso out on track, one of the biggest losers because of that poor strategy decision by the Aston Martin team. Yuki Tsunoda up 6 places in P14 after starting from the pit lane. Pierre Gasly down 5 places into P15. Liam Lawson got damage at the start of the race with a collision with Oscar Piastri after drivers locking up in front of him. He finishes in P16. Colapinto in P17. Albon retired from the race. Albon continuing a very, very poor run of form in that Williams. What has been a great season for him for the three-quarters of it. He is not ending this season well by any means. He finished P18. Gabriel Bortoletto went steaming into turn 1. Completely at fault for that. Still yet to be investigated by the stewards, though, as that penalty will no doubt be carried over into Qatar in next week time, as we have back-to-back races now. Gabriel Bortoletto 19th and Stroll, unfortunately, was the unsuspecting victim from that collision of Gabriel Bortoletto. So there we go, guys. Who is your driver of the day? Shall we run that? Oh, God, I didn't end the poll, did I, from earlier on? My goodness. 13,000 votes for that poll. No surprise, no surprise. So let's give your driver of the day. Oh, hang on. Oh, apparently George had damage. Did George have damage somewhere? Not sure. Verstappen, shall we give Kimi driver of the day? Who else can we give driver of the day? I think that's it, really. I think there's only 2 drivers. I think that's it. There's no one else, is there? There's no one else. There's no one else. So, what happened with Lando? Fuel saving. Lando had to fuel save at the end of the race. But big thank you, everyone, by the way, for tuning in very early. Wasn't necessarily... Was it worth getting up at 4 a.m., 3 a.m. for? It's always worth getting up to watch F1, guys, but it most definitely wasn't. I think that was an underwhelming... And it was very much an underwhelming race, wasn't it, really? Not the bangers that we saw in the last couple of... in the 2 iterations of this Grand Prix. So, yeah. Conspiracy time, no. Do I think the title fight will last at Abu Dhabi? I don't know. I think Lando's going to wrap it up in Qatar, to be honest with you. I just don't see Oscar having the pace right now to compete with Lando. He'll fare better at Qatar for sure. He will. But I think he's going to... Put it this way. Oscar, so let's have a look at the championship standings overall. Oh, bless me. Let's have a look at the championship standings overall, shall we? So the championship standings overall, Lando Norris is now with 408 points. He now has a 30-point advantage over Oscar Piastri. So for Oscar Piastri to take this race, championship to the last race of the season, he needs that gap to be under 25 points. 25 points and less, basically. I think... Count back-wise, who has the most wins? I suspect that it needs to be 24 points. So he needs to gain 6 points on Lando next week in Qatar. So that's basically him finishing ahead of him in the sprint race and winning, minimum probably winning the race in Qatar. Because there's a 7-point advantage. Because if Lando finished ahead of him in the sprint race, and then, of course, Oscar finishes ahead of him, say it's a P1 first and second. I think Oscar will get some performance back in Qatar because it's his sort of circuit, high speed, medium to high speed corners, lots of downforce required. It's where the track plays into the strengths of the McLaren with obviously tyre management and so forth, managing those tyre temps. And I think Oscar has to do that. He has to. Otherwise, championship over and done with in Qatar and Abu Dhabi. We at least want, for me personally, I want him to bring that. I want there to be something to look forward to in Abu Dhabi, because Abu Dhabi is always a bit of a boring race. Personally, I don't like Abu Dhabi. I don't like it being the finale, and I want there to be something to at least look forward to for the season finale, you know? My pleasure, guys, my pleasure. What did Norris win? No, he needs... he can win it. He needs, as I said, just mentioned there, he needs over 25 points come end of Qatar. So... that's how. What's that in relation with Verstappen? People how think Max would be champion are insane. I don't think that was insane to wish and want, obviously, them Max to win the championship. But yeah, the Red Bull clearly not made a decent car this year, have they? So overall, driver of the day is Max Verstappen, 59%. I am personally, this is not to take anything away from Max, but I personally am going to give my driver of the day to Kimi. I think Kimi did an unbelievable job there. Obviously, he had a 5-second time penalty. Otherwise, he would have finished 4th. But while I do have my issues with Pirelli, of course, it's still very easy at a circuit like this with tyres that are 20 laps older than that double the age of those behind in Piastri and Charles Leclerc. It was a very good performance by Kimi and continues what was a good performance off of the back of Brazil as well. To defend as long as he did, because while obviously I have my issues with the tyres being able to last that long and being able to comfortably defend that long, it's very easy to snatch a break, lock up, and become susceptible to an overtake by those behind. And it's very composed, a very composed drive by Kimi and recovery drive. Max's was good, but the door was left well open by Lando into turn 1, and as George Russell's wearing some ridiculously silly glasses as they're making their way to the podium. But yeah, he didn't really have to defend from anything, did he? So, what's that? What was that? Check the Twitter account to see if they mention if they put all investigations on it. Say what, Taco? In what regard? Kimi also went 50 laps on those tyres. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like almost 50 laps, but ridiculous. And to be fair, it's the same. It's the same as what we saw in Interlagos. We should not be in a position where we see, like Liam Lawson, like Kimi Antonelli here, where they are able to take those tyres. Kimi's just taken them a whole race distance. This was only a 50-lap race. It's the second longest track on the calendar, just behind Spa, and he has just taken that tyre the whole race distance and comfortably held off. Piastri and Charles Leclerc. That's arguably the biggest story for me here in the grandstanding of things. Yes, Lando has increased his championship lead over Piastri and Max is still in it, but come on, we need to look at Pirelli here and just go, that's ridiculous. We shouldn't ever see tyres. Like, you get to that distance, they should be falling off of a cliff. They shouldn't still be surviving like that. So, for Lando possibly being underweight if he doesn't have enough fuel. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think that would have been the case. That's why he was going so slow, to ensure that he has that 1 litre of fuel. That's what he needs. He needs 1 litre of fuel to be able to be removed from the car and tested. And I presume they will have that. That's obviously what they've seen, and he's ensured what he needed to do. So I'm just watching the onboard of Alex Albon. He was deemed at fault for the collision with Lewis Hamilton, and I can't quite see what occurred. Where did he hit him? I can't see it. I need to see it from Alex Albon's perspective. Yeah, but you can go to the FIA You can go to the FIA, and they'll find it and rule it out. So. You got to see Gabriel Bortoletto start. He just went charging in. Just went absolutely charging in. Hang on, how do you spell it? Bortoletto. There you go. Is that right? Here you go. Hopefully this isn't copy link. Here you go. Watch this, guys. Watch this. Whose fault was it? Whose fault was this, guys? Max did what Max does. Kimi, driver of the day, as he excelled. Yeah. I see why people would give it to Max. And normally, sometimes, not normally, but sometimes, even if you've led from start to finish, you do still win driver of the day, because there's an element of managing the race from up front. However, Max was never challenged today. He was never challenged. He comfortably had it. And yeah, it's a shame really that George Russell had the issues that he had, because I do think that the Mercedes was the only car that could challenge the Red Bull. But I predicted it at the start of the week. I said Max Verstappen's going to win this race because he has this car excels on a low downforce package. it excels at tracks like this, as it did in Baku, and he is going... That Red Bull does not struggle at tracks where there's little to no deg. And, of course, with a brand new power unit in the back of the car at a track where top speed is essential, everything on paper just says it's going to point towards a Max Verstappen win. And, yeah, it was a comfortable win for him, so... What a dive bomb from Gambi. Ghost mode, Bortoletto. Oh my god, Bortoletto annihilated him. I know. Gasly got caught up in that as well. Gasly got spun by Stroll being hit, and he turned into him, so... Must be Ocon's fault. Gabby was in iRacing mode, yeah. The race was bad only because one tyre, the hard-worked Hulk and Lewis were slower than car ahead on older tyres. Yeah, yeah, really. The tyres are such an influential part to a race weekend and how a race plays out. Simple as. And when you get tyres that can go as long as they do and are able to still defend from... Kimi had double the age of tyres as Piastri and Leclerc. There's no way in hell he should be able to comfortably be defending from those two. He should be falling off of a cliff. Yet he's ended up finishing in the top 5, which is brilliant from Kimi. So they would blame Lawson for the Gabby crash. So Lawson, when you sit from on board Lawson as well, so Lawson got damage from... He went into turn 1 and George Russell locks up ahead of him, and Lawson in turn locks up as a response to George Russell ahead of him, and Oscar Piastri's coming round the side, and they went wheel on wheel, but I think Lawson got front wing damage, or he picked up a front right puncture, which is why he finished so far down. So just one of those things at the start. It was deemed a turn 1, that one incident, but Gabby's will definitely be him. Gabby's will definitely be his fault. So Gabby, in fairness to Gabby, I know obviously, like, in fairness to Gabby, the gap opens for him. I see why he's gone for it. The gap opens for him. However, he's braking on the dirty line, considerably dirty side of the track, cold, hard compound tyres. He's not even on the mediums, he's on the hards. And it's just like, oh no. So... Oscar was lucky not to be out of the race because of that. Yeah. Which would have been no fault of his own, to be fair. Would have been no fault of his own. My pleasure, Kimberly. Yeah, much appreciated, guys. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Where are we at? 66,700 subscribers. Absolutely brilliant. Can't ask more from that. Can't ask more. Well, I mean, of course you always can. But, yeah, very early morning for me. Woke up at 2:30-ish, 2:45 a.m. And, yeah. Thankfully, I think everyone is still asleep in the Stuffeyy household. I think everyone is still asleep. So, yeah, I think it's all good there. No, Lando hasn't got disqualified yet. Don't put out fake news. They won't be able to do that. They won't be able to determine whether he is going to be disqualified or not. The only reason people are saying it is because he had the fuel save. He might be. I don't think he will be, because that's the whole reason why he was fuel saving in the first place, you know? Just looking to see, what was that? Colapinto. So, watching an onboard of Colapinto, I think of the incident at the start of the race. Oh my god. Okay, you thought the Bortoletto onboard was bad. Watch it from Colapinto's perspective. Oh my god. Lando hasn't been disqualified. Just guys, watch that. Just watch that from Franco's perspective. Just watch that. It's so bad. It's so bad. Lando has not been disqualified. No. Do not believe the fake news. It's fake news. Has anyone seen that from Franco's onboard? I cannot believe that. That is unreal. No, Lando had to fuel save to get to the end of the race, but he'll have enough fuel on board. That's why he went so slow. So, but lots of management there. Ferrari managing again. Charles Leclerc actually had to manage so much in the last lap there that he finished behind Kimi Antonelli, who had that 5-second time penalty. Obviously, clearly Stroll's fault. I know, clearly Stroll's fault. How dare he turn into the apex? How dare he? Should be looking in his mirrors, Lance Stroll. Same old Stroll, not looking in his mirrors, eh? The onboard of Bortoletto did. No, the onboard of Bortoletto didn't do it. It's bad enough looking at it from the onboard of Bortoletto, but when you look at it from like other cars who are slowing down for that corner, it just shows you how much of a torpedo Bortoletto as a. I mean, Danny Kvyat got the name torpedo. I mean, that is a torpedo. So, Kimi is your vote for Rookie of the Year. Well, I tell you what, Queso, I think if Kimi finishes the last 2 races in the top 5 and maybe sneaks a podium or something, I think there could be an argument for it. I'll do a break. Do you know what we'll do? And it was something I was thinking of. I'll do a comprehensive breakdown of the rookie's year, looking at their stats, looking at obviously where the car has been strong and not strong, etc. Because you have to take that into consideration as well, where, okay, where was the car relative in position to obviously some of the other rookies? Like, was the car good that weekend? Was it like, was their rookies finishing position because the car was just not in a good place? And I think a whole comprehensive like yearly breakdown needs to be done for that. It's a long year, of course, 24 race season, and Kimi, I think, has had a good year. I actually think Kimi has had a good year. Lots of people would compare him, of course, to George Russell. I still think Hadjar is rookie of the season, but I do think that if Hadjar, I still think Hadjar. I mean, look, he scored points again today. Hadjar scored points again. Let's have a look at the driver's standings, shall we? Hadjar has just moved up into 9th place in his debut season in an RB. I mean, he's ahead of Sainz, he's ahead of Behrman. Other than Antonelli, of course, who was in the Mercedes. Yeah. But I think Hadjar is still rookie of the season. But I think there is an argument. I can see why people will make an argument for Kimi if he does, like, the last 2 races of the year do well. Because I don't think his year has been as bad as people... I don't think his year has been bad like people said it was, like, in the mid-season point. Like, there was context as to why he had some DNFs. Yes, the big glaring issue was the incident with Verstappen at Austria, but he was running comfortably in the points and running some decent races when he had some gearbox failures and some engine issues, which had made him have forced retirement. So I think, and people have always compared, of course, understandably, Kimi to George this year, but I think anyone who expected Kimi to even beat George this year, like, no. Like, he's 18 years old. Lots of people said he's been rushing to F1 in the first place. I think it's been a solid year for him. I think it has been a solid year. But Mercedes gain more ground in the... Well, they don't gain ground, actually, on Red Bull in the drivers' constructors' standings, because that gap has stayed the same, because Matt's got 25 points and Mercedes got 25, but Ferrari have definitely lost ground. No movement overall. No movement overall in the constructor standings. So, yeah, what is... it's Disney, isn't it? It's a partnership with Disney. So they've just announced... F1 have just announced a partnership with Disney, haven't they? Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse is currently he's conducting a whole like presentation show right now in front of the Bellagio fountain. Fireworks going off. The Sphere has Mickey Mouse on it. Mickey Mouse is the new race director for 2026. 42 points, yeah, 42 points. Here comes a Disney F1 movie. Isn't that just Cars? You could just have like a Cars F1 movie, couldn't you? 42 points and 2 races left. Matt's going to need a miracle. Yeah, Max needed a miracle anyway because Lando's definitely got one hand on the trophy. So as we said, Oscar Piastri needs to gain. So how many race wins have they got? Because it's count back as well. Let's have a check of that, shall we? Let's have a check of count back because if, of course, Lando has more race wins than Oscar, then Oscar would need it to be less than 24 points to take the championship into the last race of the season. 2025 season. So Lando has won. Oh, hang on. I'm trying to see overall. So Lando has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 race wins. Oscar has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So Oscar has 7 race wins. So, of course, if Lando won Qatar, then the championship is over and done with pretty much. But if Oscar wins, if Oscar takes, let's say he lost points in the sprint race, right? And let's say they went to Oscar, then wins the race in Qatar, and there's 25 points going into the last race of the season. Oscar would still have an opportunity, but it would require a DNF from Lando because it would mean he would win on countback. Could Red Bull take second if Yuki picks up his weight in points? They could, but that's not going to happen, let's be honest with you. So, am I rating the race with a poll? I will do, Glenn. Let's rate the race with a poll, shall we? Rate the Vegas GP. 1 to 4. I can only do 4 options, so I have to group 1 and 4 together. 1 to 4, 5 to 6, 7 to 8, 9 to 10. Lando has 6 wins, doesn't he? Did I miscalculate? I think Lando has 6 wins. And Oscar has 7 at the moment. So Norris would be like 12 points ahead of Piastri and 24 points ahead of Verstappen should Lando Norris be disqualified. So if he was to be disqualified, he'd lose, obviously, all his points. He'd be on 390 compared to Piastri's 378. So yes, it would be a 12-point gap. Yeah, you're correct there. But he's not. I'd be very, very surprised if he's disqualified because he fuel saved at the end. Let's be honest, it's more like hopium for you guys, to be honest with you. What? That? Carlos Sainz had a plastic bag stuck on his mirror for the majority of the race. Oh, that's not good. Maybe that's why he lost a lot of points. Shocker from race control as well. Yeah, so there was... I said at the start of the race when the marshals are clearly shown running off of the track down at the exit of turn 1 when the cars were coming down. Really, really poor by race control to get that back underway when they did. Should never have happened. Either he was under fuel or had fuel problems. Probably so this is quite a high fuel usage track, so he probably didn't have enough fuel initially in the car. But yeah, this is a high fuel usage track because of the amount of time you spend on full throttle. And of course how obviously they get to the rev limiter quite early when it comes to the strip. So a lot of this section requires obviously a lot of output from the engine, and there's a lot of time spent on full throttle, which means you're using more fuel. What are they doing with marshals recently? Mexico and here. Yeah, this apparently was race control, I believe. I mean, the marshals were there. They should have been there when they were, but it wasn't. It was race control's fault to get it going again. So, to leave the marshals, not tell them. They should have told the marshals to get off the track sooner, basically. When are Red Bull going to announce their drivers? I think they'll announce them probably the week after the season ends, before Christmas. So, thank you. Love the stream. Hard waking up at 4 a.m. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, guys. I'm so glad that's the last race of the season where I have to wake up at that time. There's not many There's not many, but it's tough. It is tough. And I love my sleep as well, so. That Mickey Mouse roulette wheel crap has taken at least 3 points off of your rating for this GP. I'm going to rate this personally. This is probably one of my... I would say this is one of my least favourite races of the season. I think... I'm going to go as far to say that this was a 3 out of 10. I really did not appreciate waking up at that time in the morning to watch that. Not every race is going to be interesting, but I just think that was boring. Not gonna lie to you. British L, you think that was interesting, Taco? No, I just did not find that interesting, that race. Really. I think it fizzled out quite early on. They struggled to overtake because of the tyres. A lot more than they have done in previous years here. So there wasn't as many as overtakes as we saw previously. We had the first lap carnage, that was it. But, I don't know. Didn't really feel like... Just felt meh. Giving it a 2. I'm really only giving it a 3. It would be lower. I'm only giving it a 3 because... we saw obviously a big crash at the start of the race. If it wasn't for Bortoletto, it could very well much be a 1. So I really just did not... I don't know. Like when I'm commentating and stuff, there's always things to keep an eye on and watch on. Obviously, people within DRS and things like that. But when the dust settles, or very quickly, even when I'm commentating, I know what is a good race and what isn't. And it's just yeah. What was more meh, Vegas or Azerbaijan? Good question. Good question. I would say Azerbaijan was probably a bit more exciting because of obviously the permutations to the overall championship with Oscar going out on the first lap, watching Lando obviously where he could finish or not finish. There was more going on in the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Then, like, qualifying was much better yesterday than the race. Very, very similar race weekends. Qualifying was a lot better than the race. Wasn't it? The low grip of the Vegas track surface unfortunately made this race a sleeper. Well, it's not so much the low grip nature of this track. It's the fact of just... Because we've been here before. It's the tyres. It's the construction of the tyres by Pirelli. And I mean, looking at that, they should have brought the C6 this weekend, shouldn't they? They should have brought the C6. For any arguments against the C6 this weekend, I think Pirelli will be probably sitting there going, we should have brought it. Like, if you're Pirelli and you're sitting there and you're watching Antonelli, even Brazil as well, like, seeing a driver go nearly like the full race distance on one set of tyres and still comfortably be able to defend from those behind who are on like half the age of life of your tire on the same tire, there's no way you should be comfortably able to still defend, and yet they have been able to with Lawson in Interlagos and Kimi Antonelli here. So whereas the last couple of races, last couple of years we've been here, the tyres, there's been more to it with the tyres. The tyres have kind of, they're not degraded, but obviously there's been more blistering, there's been more fall off with the tyres, more of a difference in tyre life, which allowed overtakes. Let's just have tyres that will explode if you go more than 20 laps. bit more than that, but Pirelli have taken many L's recently. Yeah, look, I don't know the ins and outs of what it takes to construct a tyre, right? I'm not going to pretend that's my area of expertise and that I even kind of know what goes into it. And I do agree that they have, like, I do try and cut them some slack because it's kind of like a lose-lose situation type thing, really. Like, there's such a small window of where Pirelli will get praise, where they've like got the tyres correct. And these cars are the heaviest, largest they've ever been. well, not quite the largest, but like they're the heaviest cars they've ever been. They're the quickest F1 cars they've ever been. So the amount of energy that gets put through the tyres is something that Pirelli and a tyre constructor has never had to deal with before. And the last thing that they want, I understand, is for tyre blowouts. When you've got cars that weigh as much as they do, are going as fast as they do, like the consequences of a tyre blowout as fast as these cars are travelling is massive. And that would look so poorly on Pirelli. We've spoken to many of you in the chat where like you're mechanics, and you've said when Pirelli have had blowouts, you see a drop off in sales. People are fickle, even though it's got nothing to do. Obviously, the construction of a race tire is very different to a road tire. Like it still has a negative impact on the brand. So, but I do think that. I do feel like look, we're at the later stages of the season and there's enough information to kind of go, okay, this will work or that won't work, you know, and be able to change things. You have enough time to change. I mean, it depends obviously on how many tyres they've made and so forth as well. Of course, there's a certain cut-off point, isn't there, which they have to do to obviously put the tyres into manufacture and then ship them out and so forth. But still, I feel like they've got it. They've been overly cautious more than they have been kind of riskier. And they have, at times this season, been more riskier, and I appreciate that. But there's still, like, this odd race where it's just like, yeah, you still have a lot of work to do, personally, with the new regs. So Lando swore in the post-race interview, did he? Do I think we should bring back Bridgestone and Michelin? I don't know. I really don't know. We have Pirelli for the next few years, don't we? Because they won the new renewal of their contract. So I don't know. Does it need a change up? I think Pirelli just need kind of a kick up the bum by the powers that be in F1 to kind of just like be a bit more out there with their tyre selections. Thank you, Trilo. Much appreciated. You're mainly an IndyCar fan. I hope you've been following F1 since the late 1980s. Senna versus Prost. Oh, wow. You've been watching F1. I'm going to make you feel old now. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. You've been watching F1 longer than I've been alive. Oh, I'm sorry. I know that just hit deep. Yeah, never got to watch. Never got to watch that era of F1. So tyre competition would be good. Yeah, Michelin. I mean, Michelin do make like good race tyres for other race series. So, sorry, someone said I did see a good comment there. Where was it? Where was it? Who said? There's thousands of videos on YouTube of brand new cars with Pirelli blowing at high speed. It's undoubted. Really? Well, yeah. So maybe they aren't the best car brands. I've been watching F1. Yeah, now you're making me feel old, Taco. Yeah, you're young. How old am I? I'm 34. I know I don't look it. Yeah, I'm 34. 91. I'm a 90s baby. It's 2 p.m. Manila time. Oh, good afternoon to you. Yeah, it's 6 o'clock. And it's still dark outside here in the UK. Yay. It still feels like 3 a.m. Why was Lando so slow at the end? He had to fuel save. Thank you, Frank. Much appreciated. $19.85. It's always good to hear when you guys have been watching. Great age. Great age, Jazz. Great age. If I ever had a chance to watch any GP, which one would it be? I would like to just see the British Grand Prix. My home race. The atmosphere. I can go home after the race to my nice bed. Yeah, I'd love to see the British Grand Prix. Michelin do a great job of WEC and IMSA durable tyres that don't need tyre blankets. I bet they do well. Yeah, I think Michelin would. I don't think Michelin put in a tender, though. I don't think they put in a bid for the last time around when it came to the bid for the tyres. It was Pirelli, it was Bridgestone. I think that's it. I think it was just Pirelli and Bridgestone. I don't think Michelin put in a bid, so they weren't bothered by it. So, oh, Jarvis, 5 gifted as always. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. I'm going to end the poll. You're an absolute G. You do this every time, Jarvis. Thank you, man. 30% of you think 7 to 8 out of 10 for the race. Interesting. 9 out of 10 for the race. I can tell a lot of Max fans are in the chat. Rating the race 9 out of 10. 1 to 4 out of 10, 22%, and 5 to 6, 22%. So, yeah. I think that was on the lower end of the season in relation to, like, races, like, intrigue. So, you went to Montreal this year, going to Spain next year. Oh, nice. Go to Vegas and enjoy myself. I mean, Vegas would be good as well. Vegas would be good. I wouldn't turn Vegas down. But of course, if I go to an F1 race, guys, I'm not going to be able to do these watch-alongs. So, but I will do what I will. There will come a day where I will have to sacrifice a watch-along to go to an F1 race because I've never been before, and I know, of course, it's not as good as watching it at home. And I would still have all the data in front of me. But yeah, I have to tick it off the list at some point, don't I? So. Nothing yet from the FA on Instagram, so it'll be something to keep a close eye on. Yeah, look, nothing is going to have nothing in relation to the fuel testing and things like that is going to happen. But there doesn't seem to be any concerns from any of the team from what they're interviewing Andrea Stella now about the fuel. So. Michelin said they don't want to be in F1 without competition. Did they? The FIA should get rid of the 5 to 10 second penalty and replace it with a drive-through next year. Well, they do have the drive-through penalty as an option, but there's a certain level of what the infringement is to have a drive-through. But I do believe drive-throughs should be utilised more so. It depends on how egregious the incident is. So, get Spanners to step in for me. People say that the Vegas track looks like an upside-down pig. It does, yeah. Need to get me in a booth with Crofty. No. There's not enough room in the same booth for me and Crofty. You don't think F1 is bad? The current F1 is bad at all? Maybe next year's sure. Yeah, I think F1 is in a good place, personally. This year, unfortunately, what has happened is that these regs have become the antithesis of what they were initially brought in for. So the ground effect era was primarily brought in to reduce the amount of dirty air that was displaced by the cars. By, of course, creating the majority of the downforce from the underside of the car. The amount of air displaced from the underside of the car was going to make that pocket of dirty air behind it so much smaller than what we've seen traditionally from F1 cars, where the majority of the downforce is created by the air traveling over the top of it. And in the first year, it did. And I saw it when I went to... You can see it on, obviously, images, but I noticeably saw it when I went to Goodwood Festival of Speed. And I saw Haas had... they had 2 iterations of, like, their cars. Or they had a few iterations of their cars. One was from the 2023 season. 2022. And one was, like, last year's car. So a couple of years difference. And you saw... on the edges of the floor, so the side edges, they were literally smooth, but they were straight line. And then you looked at the 2023 car, and it was so intricately, like, developed with, like, all the aero on it. And unfortunately, what's happened is that the FIA have allowed the teams to overdevelop these cars, and that wasn't what they initially signed them up. I signed up these cars to these regs for. There's other areas that they could have done to do that, but the floor edges in particular have helped overdevelop these cars so that they now throw off a considerable more amount of dirty air than the 2021 cars, the last set of regs, and that's why we've got into that's why the racing has got less and less combined with the fact of obviously Pirelli being too cautious with their tyre selections, and the deltas not being the deltas having to be too high. So who was it? Oscar's quote from earlier on in the year was like, we can feel the dirty air from over from like as far as 4 seconds back. It's like 4 seconds you can feel the dirty air. That's ridiculous. And then you need over a second in tyre advantage to get past the car ahead. So that's why we saw Oscar struggle to get past Lando in Hungary. And that's why you see like the drivers at the front not have to push, because there's no need. They know that they can just look after their tyres, because, yeah, it's one thing for a driver to catch them, but are they going to have over a second advantage in tyre life than you at the front? Because that's what they need to have that extra level of grip. And that's a ridiculous amount of advantage that you need. And that's the problem with these regs, is that they've got out of control. The FIA have lost control in relation to the development. And that's why next year we will see closer racing again. And it's a shame, because 2021, I felt like, up and down the grid, we actually had, at last year at that regulation set, that's probably like, that I can remember, where you got to the end of a regulation set where like we actually saw good racing. Like, I say good, we did see good racing. Obviously, there were moments where liberties were taken and so forth with track limits and stuff. But like, we saw more than often than not drivers go side by side in the last year of those regs. Like, they could follow, we saw some good battles up and down the grid. And I feel like we're not seeing that. Well, we're definitely not seeing that in the last year of this regulation set, because of obviously what's happened. So it's funny, because when ground effects were first banned in 1983, the main reasons were, of course, safety, but the flat bottoms were also mandated to encourage more overtaking. Yeah, and the thing is as well, I don't think any of these drivers actually like driving these cars. I think if you ask Max, obviously with the success that he's had, I think if you asked him what's the most enjoyable car you've had to drive, I think he would probably still even say like the last set of regs, because these cars, everyone complained about them when they first were introduced in 2022. They went, it's like driving a tank. I think that was some of the quotes that I'd heard. They went, it's just understeer. They're so slow through the corners. Like, they're quick in a straight line. Obviously, this is the first year of them. They've got quicker, but they were just like, they just don't like them. They just don't like them. They're big boats, exactly. And that's why you see certain drivers like Lewis Hamilton struggle with this set of regs. Like, it's completely at the wrong end of the scale of what he drove when he first came into F1. And of course, Mercedes, it doesn't help that Mercedes, I don't think Lewis has ever had a good car in this set of regulations. So his confidence has always been literally in the basement for this set of regulations. But yeah, that's why some drivers obviously prefer them over others. Whereas next year, we're moving away from ground effect, aren't we? We're moving away from ground effect. They are slightly shorter, slightly narrower, heading back towards in that direction, where there's going to be more, hopefully, racing room on circuit. So, yeah. Verstappen said, I think we're cars he never got to drive, such as Vettel's championship-winning cars. Yeah. I think historically, Bridgestone and Goodyear were the two best tyre brands as far as consistency in performance. Yeah, Bridgestone definitely went for the bid this year, but then they didn't get it. It stayed with Pirelli. How do I think Kimi did today? I was my driver of the day. Kimi was my driver of the day. Yeah. Is Hamilton's race pace been very poor this season? Usually his race pace from Mercedes used to be his strong point. This year it's been very weak, and other than the sprint, no race stands out. Yeah, that's just a Ferrari car in general, though, isn't it? That they've built we've spoken about it to death, but they've basically built a flawed car. A car that, if it's run at the right height that they want to run it at, it will be disqualified. So we know in this ground effect era that if you raise the ride height of the car, you lose performance. Not only that, they are having to manage every single race, both Lewis and Charles. As early as lap 3, they are being told to lift and coast, to save the engine, to ensure that the car isn't disqualified because of plank wear. They've had brake issues. They've had fundamental issues all across. And it's a car that just doesn't. It's a car that just does, at least like look at this, right? At least with Red Bull, they've struggled this year, right? But there's still been tracks where it's been strong enough to win, evidently with Max, of course. Mercedes, we know they've been a year behind. They've been considerably behind with the development curve throughout this whole regulation set. Yet they've still had, even this year, they've had races where they've come into a window where they can win. Ferrari don't have a single race, whether it be low downforce, whether it be hot, cold, whether it's windy, still, whether if it's like high downforce, low downforce requirement, there is not a single track where you can say they're the quickest. And there's an opportunity for Charles or Lewis to maximise its potential and win. And that's like it's wild that Ferrari have made a car like this. It's absolutely wild. Consider it, but it's wild because they had a good platform last year. They had a good platform. They pushed McLaren to the constructors, and you're thinking, and I've said it many times before, Lewis probably sat there towards the end of last year when he signed that contract. Actually, as he signed the contract, Ferrari were not like, they weren't. Well, we did. Yeah, sorry. We knew Lewis was joining Ferrari before the start of last year, didn't we? So Lewis probably thought when he signed that contract, yeah, 2025 is just going to be a year of me bedding into the team. I don't expect to have a decent car. Ferrari haven't been the fastest car throughout this regulation set. It's Red Bull or McLaren. Yeah. But then as the season progressed, and especially in the second half of the season, they started to push McLaren. They started to win more races. They looked good. And he probably thought, as many Ferrari fans probably went, oh, you know what? I think we can. I think my expectations are just getting a bit higher here. I may actually end these regulations with a decent car. I haven't had a decent car the whole time. Mercedes in this set of regs. Ferrari, I think, can have a good car for 25. I thought that. I think many others did. And then he's arguably now driving a car that's worse than any of the Mercedes cars he's driven in this set of regulations, which I don't think many people thought was possible, or anyone thought was possible after driving a W13 in 2022. So, yeah. And I think least of all Charles Leclerc after last year, with the way his season finished as well, I think least of all Charles Leclerc would have been thinking that he'd have this car this season. So, yeah, it's not just Lewis's side of the garage, it's also Charles's side, where he also hasn't got a win this year. Everyone expected Lewis to be off the pace of Charles for the majority of the season, which he has been, but he's got closer and closer as the year's gone on, as obviously Lewis had to bid himself into a new team and a new environment. And I mean, yeah, it doesn't really, you can tell how fed up Charles is. Yeah, and I think personally, I think a lot of the comments, I think John Elkann's comments were probably more directed at Charles, because Charles has been very vocal. He's been very vocal. So he was vocal even yesterday after qualifying, wasn't he? He was he was like, he literally said, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, since I've joined Ferrari, we haven't been able to make a car that can drive in the wet. It's like, damn. Because Carlos Sainz, people rightfully said, like, since Carlos Sainz has left Ferrari, his wet weather performances have been really good. So, whatever I say, 2026 Aston Martin going to be a dark horse. Yeah, I think Aston Martin are a dark horse. Honda know how to make an F1 engine, and they've got Nui. And of course, a lot of it is dependent on whether or not they can create a good engine, Honda. Like, if you don't have a good power unit, you're going to struggle no matter how good your aero package is in this new set of regs. Yeah, like if they provide a decent, you know Nui's cooking, don't you? You know Nui's cooking. So I think they'll have a good car next year. I think they will. The Vegas GP is cursed. At least get rid of the manhole covers. Alonso got to go playing about GP2 engine like he did 10 years ago with McLaren Honda. Well, this is it. But I think the relationship with Honda will be very different this time, because Alonso knows he's not getting another opportunity anywhere else again. This is his last seat in F1. So he has to bite his lip And even if Honda don't provide a good engine, oh, you're so good, guys, because he obviously is not going to get an opportunity anywhere else. Even with the Ferrari car being bad, I feel like the tyre prep problems Lewis has is mainly due to his style. Oh, no, I agree with that as well. Yeah, that's been a fundamental issue with Lewis throughout this set of regs, is that he has failed to get on top of the tyre prep. He doesn't get on with these Pirelli tyres. That's why his qualifying performances have been very poor when it comes to George Russell and Charles Leclerc. And yeah, that is all him. That's not the cars. That's all him, with him not being able to get on top of what is necessary to get them in the right window. Some have adapted to it sooner than others. And as I said, like, sometimes people have said to Lewis, like, he should have been adapting quicker this year to Ferrari. But sometimes having experience can be a detriment to you when you move somewhere else and you are required to adapt. Yes, if you like, the experience can help you, but in some instances it's like you've been somewhere for so long that actually it takes you a lot longer. It's a negative because it takes you a lot longer to adapt, even though you have that experience. Like it's not like Lewis has spent the last 10 years or his whole F1 career. Yes, he's spent it at two teams, McLaren and Mercedes, but they were both Mercedes power units when he was at McLaren and obviously Mercedes. And he's only been at two teams. It's not like he's been at 4 or 5 different teams. Like, and the age that he's at as well, when you're older, like, you can be stuck in your ways and it's a lot more difficult to adapt. Whereas when you're younger, it's much easier. So that Lewis interview was heartbreaking. Yeah, that's a standard Lewis Hamilton interview now after every race. So Charles also looks quite dejected as well, finishing 6th, of course. All the legacy drivers have been struggling with these cars for an extended period during these regs at some point. Exactly. So historically, when Ferrari has a dry spell, it's unfortunately and usually a very long one. Yeah, well, they're definitely in a dry spell right now, aren't they? Aston Martin, we need to get a top driver. Alonso is old. Yeah, Alonso will move on eventually. He will. So Alonso said if we don't have a good car next year, he will stay on for another year because he's like, I have a duty to have a good car. I feel like a missed opportunity. And then, so if they have a good car next year, he will probably be gone after 26, maybe. So Lewis has gone from German efficiency to Italian flamboyance in teams as well. Yeah, I mean, it must be... Imagine going to a new job, right, and you see how fundamentally flawed it is. Like, you take a new job for more money, more prestige, or whatever it is, more responsibility, and you go in there, and you're like, oh my God, this is like an absolute shit show. And you end up telling the higher-ups or the directors and things like that, you end up telling them, look, this is what I think we should be doing. I've come from a successful business. This is what you've hired me for. I'm here to improve the team. I'm here to obviously like be successful. This is what we need to do from my experience from coming from a well-oiled team who bloody won like as much as they did, but even in just like the business world, whatever industry you're in. And then to just hear them go, nah, and people to get their back up because like you're doing what you was brought in to do. It's got to be a bit demoralising. So anyone would, no matter what like, kind of industry they go in. And if you're not getting a response back from that either, which clearly rumours are, they're like, there's a lot of ruffled feathers in the engineering team. Long stalwarts of the Ferrari engineering team are not happy with the comments from Hamilton and Leclerc and the suggestions from Hamilton of how to improve the team. And yeah, even Piastri was saving fuel at the end. Same for Charles. Yeah, they all had to save fuel at some point, didn't they? So Lewis was asked, so at the end, Adami went, that's a P10. Lewis went, what happened with the strategy? How did I end up P10? I thought we were looking good at one point. Yeah, we need to look into that second stint or balance or car. We will check. And Lewis went, how did Mercedes, who are behind me, get all the way up there. Adami, early stop, lap 3 with the hard, went to the end. The hard was the superior tyre, which they started on. Because Kimi pitted lap 2, didn't he? So Lewis very confused. Do I think Ferrari's 499p WEC program takes away from the F1 program in any way? I don't believe so. No. From an operational perspective, no, I don't think so. Completely separate. If Alonso wins his third at 45, it will be the greatest season ever by a driver. Maybe. It depends in the manner in which he wins, doesn't it? With the McLaren being the fastest car, I think Lando driver will get underrated. The car was the third fastest this weekend, and he got pole. Oh, no. I think this weekend was a brilliant drive for Lando. Of course, he helped... yesterday... I say, of course, yesterday. Like, yesterday was a bloody brilliant lap. Anyone trying to take away from that, myself included there, I was about to say, like, oh, the conditions suited Norris yesterday. Which, yes, to an extent, they did. They suited the McLaren much better yesterday than they would have done in dry conditions. I think qualifying would have been very different. I'm still not convinced that McLaren would have had the single lap pace over the Mercedes, at least a fully functioning Mercedes of George Russell, if he didn't have an issue with the power steering. I don't think Lando would have been on pole position or on the front row in dry conditions over a single lap. But yeah, for him to have that lap yesterday and do it when it mattered, stamp his authority on the championship. If anyone thought, yeah, there's still a sliver of hope for Piastri, he put that to bed straight away yesterday. And then today, you haven't seen the race start, right? I'll see if I can get the race start. I'm surprised, but I'm also impressed by Lando's start. Not impressed by obviously him locking up and running wide, of course, but I'm impressed. He defended as aggressively as he did, and this race start to me just shows that's a different Lando. This is a different Lando Norris that we're watching right now, because he could have not defended this as aggressively as he did. Like, he was risking a collision here with Max, and he didn't need to do it. He didn't need to do it because really it's still a match play scenario for him where he just needs to beat Piastri, and he could have held it around the outside. He still had a good start. But this is Lando Norris that people have been calling for quite some time. And I thought, considering the stage of the season it is and what he had to lose, that was a ballsy, an aggressive race start from Lando. Let me see if I can find it. But it just shows the difference in approach that he's got and the belief of himself now. So here you go. This is the race start. And you just see how aggressive he was in defending this. And I was like, whoa. Like, okay, yeah, he lost the position overall in the end, but that's something that we would never have seen from Lando before in the first half of the season. Or ever, really. Nobody has been disqualified. No, guys. You're clutching at straws. Apparently, Coulthard quoted Lando's move as Lando tried to play Max at his own game, but the pro is he doesn't know the rules of the game. I don't actually like David Coulthard anymore, to be perfectly honest with you. I went to a lunch with David Coulthard. And he spoke. It was like a lunch with David Coulthard. I went with with the company that I work for, and he spent half an hour, didn't take any questions, and he spent most of his time. Talking about his ex-wife than he did about F1, and it wasn't really like any new insight. He didn't really give me too many opinions on like current F1 either, and I just went, what? What is this? The company was brilliant, but with like the actual people I was with. But I was just like, what? And then the presenter was like, yeah, we know you got a plane to go and catch. And it's like, dude, And that quote there, I don't agree with, to be honest with you. Did I show the clip? The clip. I don't show the clip. I have to pin it because otherwise, if you don't show the clip, sorry, if I show the clip, it's copyright. So he definitely didn't want to be there. No, he didn't want to be there. He didn't want to be there. So yeah, unless you was sat on his table, which I wasn't, you weren't able to pick his brain and get any information. But no, look, they had they do these sort of things all the time, these like lunches, and they've had like other sports people, and they said they stay for like 2 hours, and they do like they obviously talk about themselves, tell some stories, and then they take like Q&As and things. But yeah, I was really surprised it was that short, to be fair. So he cut to the left, should have held it inside. He tried to hold it inside. He was already on the dirty line. He tried to move back a little bit to try and find some clean track. But no, look, regardless, look, Lando coulda, shoulda, woulda there at the start, you know. I don't think he had to defend as aggressively, but obviously he was worried about Max sending it down the inside. And it's something that I also have criticised Lando. I did a video at the start of the season. This is something Lando needs to do this year. If it's one thing he needs to learn from last year to this year, is he needs to learn that the inside has all the power. The inside car has all of the power with these racing rules. Now, he still hasn't fully got on top of that because there are times where he just still decides to try and overtake around the outside. But this was one of those moments where, like, the inside line has all the power. If he keeps it there, there's no opportunity for Max to send it down the inside and do what he does best, which is roll off the brakes, keep it within try and keep it within track limits. And yeah, he ends up like leading the race there, and he gets shoved out and risks contact. But that was aggressive by Lando. I like it, and considering he's the championship leader and that could have ended up with a collision and so forth, to defend as aggressively as he did, fair play. So Max and Lando coming in beautifully. That could have been a very big crash with respect to the championship. Yeah, but at the same time, it was Max's, because Max was never like alongside there, and Lando was like fully ahead. It's down to Max to back out of it. So I predict for every driver except Alonso will be caught cheating at Abu Dhabi, and Alonso will be given his third title whenever he win this year. Now that's hopium. Coulthard may have the jawline of Alonso, but he doesn't have the swag. But anywho, guys, that is it for me. I am going to call it a night, a morning. I don't think there's really too much else to discuss. Yeah, that is it, isn't it? That is it. So Lando Norris extends his championship lead. It is now 30 points, up from 24. So yeah, Oscar in Qatar, which is a sprint race, which is next weekend. We have back-to-back races, triple header. He has to get that under 25 points to have an opportunity into Abu Dhabi. It's doable. Qatar is definitely an Oscar track, but is he in the right frame of mind? There was also something going around. Did he repost something? Did he repost a quote on Instagram? Like a quoted post about, what was it? Something about the team favouring Lando. I thought it was all fake. I thought it was like people like photoshopping it. But the race reported on it. The race actually did something on it. They went, yeah, it was kind of like a Lando hate post, wasn't it? And I thought it was all fake. I didn't pay too much attention to it because people obviously Photoshop all the time. But the race actually, I'll see if I can find it just before I go. The race actually posted, they asked him about it, or he was asked in an interview about it. Hang on. And he said, oh, come on, I can find it. They post so much, didn't they? I swear I saw the race do it. Unless it was fake. No, he said here, maybe I accidentally did it. Obviously, it was not intentional. About his repost on Instagram. Like, what? Like, I get it. You can accidentally repost something. You can accidentally like something. We've all, like, accidentally liked something or whatever. Like, it's just how it is. Like, especially when they're forever changing, like, the UI and stuff on Instagram and social media and things. But I was like, oh, so it was real. Like, it was, like, okay. Like, are you hurting that much? Like, I still think he needs to get over it, to be fair. Like, the whole Monza thing. We said it yesterday. Like, he was leading, even after you've given up those points, right? Regardless, okay, they've changed the rules. They've changed the goalposts in the moment. Yeah, you have a right to be pissed off about that, but don't dwell on it, mate. You still got, like, a 29-point lead or whatever he had over a race win difference. Like, okay, deal with it, move on. And then that's not a valid excuse for the poor performances that have followed since that. So it was an Eccleston quote, was it? I can't remember. I just remember it being something about, like, oh, they're favouring Lando Norris or something. Oh, it's a British team, and of course they're going to favour a Lando Norris over Oscar. Something like that, wasn't it? Along those lines, I think. But yeah, I thought it was fake for a bit, but clearly it wasn't. So, but thank you, everyone. Much appreciated, by the way. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, 6:30 already. 6:30 a.m. Another great stream as always. Plenty of subs. Big thank you as always. Big thank you. It's just a shame the race wasn't great to make waking up this worthwhile. But it's always worthwhile waking up to you guys, to chat F1 with you guys and provide these watch-alongs. I love it. But yeah, the race had a lot left to be desired, didn't it? Let's be honest. Let's hope Qatar is a bit more exciting. It's a sprint race weekend next week. And then, of course, we have the finale in Abu Dhabi. I do hope Oscar can dig out a performance in Qatar and at least take the championship to the last race of the season, because at least we have that intrigue. Otherwise, everything's wrapped up. I don't care about second place in the constructors, do you? That's kind of like the only thing that we have to look forward to in Abu Dhabi otherwise. So yeah, let's see how it goes on. Qatar is a McLaren track, so it's whether or not Oscar can dig deep and actually outperform Lando, which he hasn't done for a good while now. But yeah, we will see. Thank you as always, guys. Have a lovely rest of your Sunday wherever you are in the world, and we will catch up. We'll do some videos in the week as well. Don't know what's going to come out of this. Maybe I'll have a thought about making a video or so forth. But we'll have our preview, of course, for the Qatar Grand Prix. Be sure to turn your notifications on for when that goes live this week. And yeah, we will see you next Friday for the sprint quali. Remember, it's only FP1 and then straight into sprint quali on Friday. Sprint race on the Saturday, quali on the Saturday afternoon, and then the race on Sunday. We'll see you then. Tyre video. Do I do a rant on the tyres, Rhythm? Is that what you want? You want a rant? Should I do a rant on the tyres? Yeah, I do feel like it's deserved. I'll have a look back at this season. I'll have a look back at this season of where the tyres have been able to go on that long. Because this hasn't been the only time. As I said, Interlagos is one that I remember. But yeah, maybe I'll have a look into that. But yeah, have a good rest of your Sunday, guys. I'm now going to go catch a bit of shut-eye before little one wakes up. And yeah, we'll see you in the week. Thanks, guys. Bye.